Now, here comes the music. Okay, all you need is some patience and a little practice, and you'll soon be disco dancing with the best. Let's start with the basic two-beat turn. I'll count it for you like this. Step left, around, and together with the right. Step left, around, and together with the right.
Act like the end of a record and fade out. All that cha-cha stuff was just played out. Kill the noise and the instruction. Now's the time for a brief introduction. Feet meet the beat, glad to meet ya. Fancy moves, the steps how I greet ya. Side to side, jump, step and turn. Set the fire, boys, and let's burn.
Step left, around, and together with the right. Stand straight, bend knee, thrust hips. Step left, around, and together with the right. Step forward, kick, step right, and back.
Stop that talk, man, you're a distraction. You can chill, but I'm not relaxing. I came here to turn out the party. Socialize the coke and Bacardi. Drop my drink, then please to the dance floor. Show the DJ what I came here for. Lose control just like a wild animal. Eat the beat like a hungry cannibal. Dance. Dance. Show me how to dance. Dance.
Hey gals and guys, this is Michael Ferrari of Cinema to Meep and the Last American Video Store podcast. Welcome to episode 61 of the Retro Movie Love podcast. Joining me today is my good pal Jeffrey Berg of jdbrecords. Welcome back to the podcast, Jeffrey.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining me. It's been a while, and I really wanted to get another podcast with you. I just enjoyed chatting with you. You know, we talk about movies all the time together, but it's fun to do it together on the podcast.
Agree. Especially this year.
Yeah, this has been an interesting year. I mean, it's only February, but it's been an interesting winter.
Yeah.
We were just talking before how in February, this time of the year, we really enjoy going to see movies in theaters. And, you know, historically speaking, January and February aren't the best times to release movies. And it's usually a lot of the movies that were released, like the Oscar movies that are just being, they're still playing in theaters in January and February. And then they release, the newer releases aren't generally the best of movies, historically speaking. That of course isn't always the case. But regardless of the movie's quality and, you know, if critics approve them or not, we went to the movies in January and February because we wanted to escape the winter, the feeling of being, you know, the cabin fever of being home and escaping to the movies. And we were talking about how last year at this time of the year, we both went to see Brahms, The Boy 2.
Which feels so far away now.
It does. I literally went to the theater that's like 5-minute drive from where I live, and, you know, it was such a bad movie for me at least, but it was like, you know, it's only 5 minutes away. I'll go see this movie, and it was like whatever. And I think I left before the ending too. Just something to do in February. It was just a boring, you know, time, and it wasn't as bad weather-wise as it is this year.
Yeah.
But it was fun. And I think, what was the last movie you remember seeing?
It was definitely The Invisible Man. It's like seared in my memory.
Yeah, that was the last movie I saw in theaters too. So we shared that in common. So, you know, it's not a bad way to go out.
No, that was actually a pretty decent movie, I thought.
Yeah, definitely. And it's sad that it, you know, ended there.
Mm-hmm.
So what we've been doing for most of our time for this 1 year later business is watching a lot of older movies, and that's kind of what we do, and catching up with new things on whatever streaming platforms, and I don't know. I'm all about collecting movies and watching older films. I kind of have been really bad with keeping up with new releases. The past year, I think that's kind of the one thing that really went downhill for me. This last year, I just have lost interest in newer movies for the most part. There have been there have been exceptions for sure, but I just kind of lost interest, and so I've just been really devoting a lot of my time to collecting movies that I've always wanted to own. If you check out my Instagram, the Cinema de Meep and Last American Video Store, the Instagram, you'll see all the things that I've been getting in this past year. And it's been a lot.
It's always fun to see what you're getting.
I've been pretty good about finding cheap movies out there on the interweb, and I've been good about selling off my older copies of things so I can make money to pay for these newer things. So it's been an adventure this last year of doing that. So I kind of replaced watching movies in theaters with that in a way, which I'm okay with. I do want to go see movies in theaters again, but only when it's safe, and that doesn't seem like it's going to be anytime soon. But when it is, we will be seeing movies, and hopefully we can go see a movie together one day.
Yeah.
That would be great.
That would be nice.
In the meantime, we can just talk about 30 years ago. Let's talk about what happened 30 years ago. What happened 30 years ago? It was 1991. I was, 16? I turned 16 in 1991. I was definitely watching a lot of movies, even back then. I went to see a lot of these movies in 1991 in theaters. Not as many as some other years. I actually have this paper in my hand, and these are a log of all the movies I went to see in theaters.
So cool.
In 1991, I actually have it typed out. I used a word processor.
Wow.
I didn't have a computer yet. And yeah, I went to see a good amount of movies, and I'll go through them with you. We're going to do like a calendar of 1991. This is our first podcast. I think I'm going to try to do 6 of these. I'm going to hope I can do 6 of these. I'm going to try my best to do every 2 months. So January, this will be January and February of 1991. We'll try to match it with the month we're in a way. So we're in February of 2021. So this is 30 years of 1991, January and February. And I'm looking at the titles here. And, a good amount. And see what I rated those movies to. So,
did you rank them, or did you?
I did star ratings,
Mm-hmm.
and then I did in parentheses next to it A minus or a B plus or whatever. So me, the little movie critic shit. So let's talk about. I have a lot of recently seen, but I'm not going to get into a lot of really recently seen. Is there something that you want to talk about that you watched recently?
I've watched a lot of newer things, some foreign films.
Sure. But
nothing that feels very cinema do me. One I really liked was called Dear Comrades. It's a Russian film. And actually the director, he did Tango and Cash.
Oh,
and...
Andrei Konchalovsky, right?
Yes. Yeah. He directed it, and it's really good. It kind of has a Hollywood sensibility, but it's also very Russian and grim.
That's cool. I always wondered what happened to him as a director, and he's making movies in Russia. That's awesome.
Yeah, he's still chugging along, so I recommend that one. I did watch Saint Maud, and I was hoping for that one to be a little better. Maybe my expectations were a little high because the trailer was so good.
Right.
And I really liked Jennifer L. But it was okay.
Okay.
Yeah, it's worth watching. It has some really inventive visual moments, but I don't know. I think I was just expecting a little better, and I was also anticipating it for so long too, because I think the trailer was out around this time last year, actually, and the movie got shelved.
Oh, yeah.
For so long, so.
Yeah, I know. It's it's a year, going to be a year filled with movies that were made 2 years ago, 3 years ago, coming up soon. I can't even keep track anymore. And what are the movies that are being made in COVID times? And it's a weird world, obviously.
Yeah. The thing about these, 91 movies, and I've been watching ones throughout the year. They just feel like such good audience participation films.
Yeah.
They just feel like good theater movies, if that makes sense. And I don't know if that's changed in recent years, because so many things are in streaming.
Right.
I don't know, they just have a very different feel to them.
Yeah, movies probably now, they don't have to be movies that are dictated about how an audience reacts to them, like a theater full of people, probably. And not looking for like rollicking laughter from from people, or I don't know. There may be a little bit. Yeah, there might be a little bit more serious. I don't know. And the comedies. I feel like there have been less comedies lately. In general, there is a comedy that I want to talk about that I watched recently, and I'm pretty sure you've seen it too. But other than that, there haven't been a lot of like funny movies, quote unquote funny movies. It's more like movies that are kind of about people and like serious things, and I don't know. I like those movies and I admire those movies, but I feel like I'm at a point in my life where I kind of want more joy, and I want that from my movies. I want them to bring me the joy that's lacking in this world today.
Yes.
So that's kind of where I'm at. So I kind of have been staying away from the more serious films and the films about, the very humanist look at lives and on a global scale. I just can't be depressed.
That's understandable. I understand.
I'm a sucker for a good dumb movie to lift me up a little bit, but then I'm the same person who really appreciates a really well made film as well, and that can move me in unexpected ways. But these days, I think when we get into these 91 movies as we go along, there's definitely a good amount of those, and maybe some surprise things that too also kind of that kind of challenged me a little bit, which is interesting as well. But we'll get into those. I forgot. I didn't really ask you where were you in 1991? What's the Jeffrey Berg story in 1991?
I was in middle school, which was a horrible time.
Oh God, sorry to ask then.
It was really bad. I was 11, so I think I was just in like 6th grade. Yeah, really bad time. I do remember, like, movies, like, the things that I was seeing in the theater were things like Hook and Addams Family.
Right,
which were really fun, and I loved them. Like, I think I saw Hook, like, 5 times. But things like JFK and Silence of the Lambs and all of these, like, adult movies were just, like, exotic creatures to me at the time that like my parents and my parents' friends were talking about, or like the cool kids that got to watch rated R movies were talking about.
Right.
So yeah, or we would watch like Terminator 2 or something at like a neighbor's house at like a sleepover. But yeah, it was it's really fun to like watch movies that you weren't allowed to watch at the time and watch them later. But pretty much things like Beauty and the Beast and Hook and King Ralph, I definitely saw that too. Like when I was 11, but I like haven't seen a lot of the movies since I was a kid.
To tie it in to the other podcast, my other podcast, Last American Video Store. Like, have you been? Were you renting movies at the video store at the point, or were your parents renting them for you? Like what was your experience with that?
Yeah, we had 2 video stores that we had. I think it was called Super Video, which was a really cool indie store. And then like 2 blocks down was a new Blockbuster Video. So the Blockbuster Video was where to go to get like all the new releases.
Yeah.
And then, Super Video was where you would go to find like the quirkier stuff or like old horror movies. So I was watching kind of a mix of things and probably taping stuff off of like Cinemax. Like, I think I was talking about this to Ben or you, I can't remember, but I remember like IFC and Bravo used to have like independent movies with no commercials.
Right.
This was before Real Housewives.
Yeah.
I think they had like Inside the Actors Studio and like these like really like sophisticated indie movies, and I was definitely like watching those at the time.
Nice.
And kind of exploring independent cinema. But yeah, for the video stores, that was definitely the era of Blockbuster, like the prime Blockbuster era.
Totally. Yeah. Cool. All right. For my recently seen, not to get into, not gonna, you just check out the Instagram. You can check out my personal Facebook page. You'll see all the things I've been watching. But what I haven't posted that I've seen was The Real World. I've been getting into The Real World again. That CBS app thingy has like the first 4 seasons of The Real World, classic ones. And then they have like a bunch more, but they're like older seasons. I mean like newer seasons. So I'm not sure I'll get into those. For me, when I watched The Real World on MTV, I watched the first, I want to say 7 or 8 of them, and then I stopped. Like it was like before, it was like 2000, like 1999 or somewhere. I think I stopped watching. So I don't know whatever season that was.
Probably Hawaii, I think.
I don't think I watched Hawaii, so it was like right before Hawaii.
Yeah.
I stopped watching because I don't know, I moved on. I was watching a lot of movies and I just wasn't watching TV shows at that point. Yeah, definitely that's the reason, because I don't remember watching any TV shows in the late 90s. So, you know, I was kind of hooked while watching these when they first aired. It was obviously the very beginning, like of what we now, know reality TV to what it is.
It's amazing, right?
Yeah. So revisiting it, the reason why I revisited season 1 is because they're doing a reunion series on the new Paramount Plus network or whatever they're launching next month. So they're doing a reunion of the first season, which is the New York season, with the original cast, and I guess together in lockdown. And so I was like, oh, whatever happened to them? So I need to go back and revisit the series. This is like the first time I'm watching these shows since they aired. This is like 90, and the first one aired in 92. So we're almost 30 years in. I don't know. They might have filmed it in 91, but somewhere around there. That's when The Real World was on its way to being what we know. And so it was really interesting watching it again, like, and how, like, I won't say how real it felt, but the first season was like, oh, this is like an interesting experiment. Like, what would happen when they throw these people together in a situation, and the beginnings of what reality TV became, and then I watched the season 2, and it was like, oh, they just threw a bunch of like music tracks in it, like very popular songs. So it was kind of, oh, this is definitely becoming MTV,
Yeah.
And then season 3, which my wife and I are watching right now, San Francisco, which is to me was my favorite of the seasons that I watched initially.
It's so good.
And it's so good. It is so good. Season 3. I think maybe it's because of just because of the characters and the people, really, and then the setting of San Francisco was kind of a really I don't know, just really appealing to me, and the Page was a more he was very obviously it's very sad looking back at it now, but at the same time what he was trying to do with the show was really uplifting, and I admire him greatly for doing that, to getting his message out.
Yeah, I liked how they were like kind of all thrown together, and they all had jobs. Like they were all trying to find, like the one girl, isn't she trying to find a job at like the Gap or something?
Yeah.
Like I feel like they were all like, now it's just like getting drunk and partying or whatever, but
Right.
it was like more of a realistic portrait of like young people, which was really good.
Yeah, I definitely like that about it. Like one of the, there were people like struggling with their careers and trying to bridge the gap between school and a job, and it's just kind of fun seeing that and like looking back at it now as an adult and like, oh, like I don't have to deal with that anymore.
Right.
but I'm glad to see it again, and it can also get a little bit annoying too because you do like see all these like things that this bullshit of being in your early 20s that you don't want to deal with anymore, like you don't have to deal with anymore, like like all that stuff that you like. Oh yeah, I'm glad I'm not that person, but it's entertaining at the same time. So it was cool. It's cool revisiting it. I do want to keep going with the first few seasons. So that has been, and they're really like without the commercials, it's like 20 minutes. So they really fly by. So
satisfying.
And then the movie that I wanted to mention that I watched with Joyce, my wife, was Barb and Star Go to Vista Del Mar.
Yes. That was very fun. Right?
That was super fun. I wasn't sure what to expect. We knew it was Kristen Wiig and her writing partner, Annie. Terrible with names.
I forget her name too.
Yeah, the duo that brought you Bridesmaids are now doing this film, and it's something they've been trying to do for a while, but they couldn't get it off the ground because the studio just wanted Bridesmaids 2, and she's pretty adamant about not doing a sequel to that, and thankfully, because I don't think you can capture that magic again. So yeah, it was just really unexpected and kind of random and really silly and really joyous.
Yes.
Good
soundtrack.
And the soundtrack was fun. So perfect. That's exactly what I needed for February. Thank you.
Very colorful too. Like I think I was talking about this to Ben. Like, have we seen a movie with this much color in it? I don't know, La La Land or something.
It's really colorful. Yeah, it goes out of its way to be like just zesty and just really just kind of, I won't say over the top, but in a way that's just fun. And just kind of treat for your eyes and your senses, and there's a lot of funny moments in it. So I laughed a good amount. I was really into it. A new movie, so there you go.
Yeah.
So that was fun. All right, let's talk more about 91. Let's get into the calendar here. Now, of course, when you get into January and February, this won't be a super long podcast because it's not like a lot of movies. Because a lot of the releases were holdovers from in January for like all the big movies that came out, right? All the big movies that came out in December. So they were still playing. They were still big hits. And so that's what people were going to see. If I looked at the box office in January, it's probably all the movies that came out in December, right? But what came out, I think the first official release of 1991 was this movie. Here's a TV spot for it. I'm going to play that right here.
They think they can get away with murder. But Van Damme's out for revenge. The rules are simple.
There's no rules.
The stakes are high.
That's him, a born killer.
You win, you live.
Beat the guy, I have to.
You lose, you die. Van Damme is Lionheart. Rated R. Starts Friday, January 11th at theaters everywhere.
Okay, that's a TV spot for Lionheart, starring Jean-Claude Van Damme. Now, I'm not trying to remember like how many like Van Damme movies I watched in this period. I don't know if I watched that many. I don't think I was a Van Damme guy then, because I'm looking at the paperwork here. I gave Lionheart
the evidence.
The evidence. I gave Lionheart 1 star.
Oh, you were not a fan of Lionheart.
So I was not a fan of Lionheart in the theater. So I see Universal, rated R, 105 minutes. I type all this out. I saw this at the Kingsway Theater in Brooklyn, New York. Action movie. 1 star. January 91. Yeah, so I was not a fan of Lionheart when it came out.
Have you revisited?
I did revisit it, and I revisited it with my wife because these last couple of years we've been occasionally popping in a Van Damme movie, and they've been so much fun for some reason. It's been like a Van Damme adventure, like exploring his his catalog of fun movies. Like, I don't know, even the silly, dumb, stupid ones are just, I don't know, for some reason are entertaining. I don't know, I don't know if it's Van Damme or just like the kinds of movie projects he chooses. They're just kind of silly and over the top, and he does a lot of splits. He shows off his buns a lot. There's a lot of gratuitous buns in a Van Damme movie. My wife thinks it's hilarious. We just like spot the split, spot the buns. You know, we play a Van Damme game, like basically like a drinking game. Every time he does a split or every time he shows his buns, you take a drink, which I'm going to do right now.
Yeah, this movie is a good drinking film, I would think.
Yeah,
Like to drink to.
You know, it's not a good movie in the traditional sense. Revisiting it, but you know, I had an opposite experience this time. I would bump my 1 to 3 stars. And you know, I'm looking at my list, and you know, there have been moments where I definitely was a little off with what I felt then and now, but for the most part. Generally tend to like the same things that I liked back then, or dislike the same things. But this was one I was way off on.
And doesn't it have the little girl from Growing Pains?
Oh my god! I don't know if I ever watched Growing Pains. Thinking about it, I remember Growing Pains.
The little girl in the movie.
Oh, okay. I remember like Lisa Pelican, the sister of. Is it the wife of
Tracy Gold and Joanna Kearns?
Yes. No. Lisa Pelican is this redhead in the movie who he has to like.
Gotcha.
She has she has a daughter, right? Yeah, that's it. And he's like, it's his brother's wife, and he's like, he basically has a street fight to make money for his brother's wife and her kid because they have no money because he's dead, right? He gets killed or something, and. Lisa Pelican is the actress, and she's the actress in that movie Jennifer from 1978, the one, the snakes.
Is she the villainous?
Yeah, she's
character?
she's the main lead in that one, who has the power to over the snakes.
That's incredible.
Yeah, so that's when I'm like, oh my god, I did not know that she was in this movie and had a kind of an important role in it because she. And basically, it's the MacGuffin. Like he has to make money for his brother's wife, and so he starts this fighting thing. And of course, he's good at fighting. And then the people who want him to fight are basically trap him so he can't get out of it because they want to keep using him until he's basically dead. Yeah, because he keeps winning money for them. It's like an underground fighting ring. It's a kind of fighting ring where like. Yet, people who are destitute fight against each other, and then the rich people are all there in their furs and their stretch limos, and they're just watching all these like people bloody each other. It's like what you'd imagine rich people would do in real life, right?
Yeah.
What the 1% actually does, right? And I don't know. It's a really entertaining movie. It's like I can't believe like Universal, like a classy studio like Universal released this kind of movie, but because it seems so like. It seems kind of like an exploitation film, right? Mm-hmm. But here it is, a big studio in January releases this kind of action exploitation film. And that's what I kind of love about it now. That this was the first release of 1981, and I really found it entertaining this time around. And it was directed by Sheldon Lettich, who went on to do another 91 Van Damme movie that we'll get into later this year with Double Impact.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know. I was really entertained. Don't go in with high expectations, but if you want some Van Damage, you'll get it with Lionheart.
Is it available on Blu-ray?
Oh my god, is it? Yes, it is available on Blu-ray. That's company MVD. They've been specializing in doing a lot of these kind of Van Damme action movies. Mm-hmm. They also did Double Impact as well. They also do their Rewind collection of like 80s and 90s movies. They recently put out Gun Crazy with Drew Barrymore. They put out a couple of thrillers like Mikey and a few others. Yeah, I kind of love this new label, MVD. They've been around a while, but the Rewind collection is kind of new for them. So I just kind of love what they're doing. And
I'll have to check that out.
yeah, it's fun. It's a fun movie, and I'm glad it's on Blu-ray. A not so fun movie that came out also on January 11th. It was Not Without My Daughter, starring Sally Field. I don't remember. I didn't see this in the theater because it didn't look like my bag for sure. When a 16-year-old is not going to go out to see Not Without My Daughter. It's about a woman who's basically trapped in a relationship with her husband, and she's trapped in Iran, and she needs to find a way out because he's trying to basically take her daughter away from her. I don't know about this movie. I'm trying to skirt around some things because I felt that the movie was a little bit, I don't know, just it wasn't. Didn't have a light touch with what it was trying to say. It kind of makes certain people look really bad and puts, in certain religions in a bad light, and I did not appreciate that.
Yeah.
So I kind of found it a little bit in poor taste, and I kind of felt a little bad for Sally Field a little bit being in this movie. I'm sure it was
giving her all.
Yeah, she is giving her all, and I get it. Getting one to play that character again, like she played in Steel Magnolias, the mother who will protect her daughter at all costs. But it just didn't work for this movie. I just felt that the movie didn't portray all the characters in a fair way. I just felt it was a little one-sided.
Yeah.
So I had problems with it.
Yeah, I watched it recently too, and I thought Alfred Molina's character was just so quickly changed from
yes.
I don't know, into this super villain, and it was it just didn't feel right. I don't know.
I understood he had a lot of stress put on him because he wanted to. He was torn between his family, his own family, and this new family that he made for himself, but the movie does not portray that lightly. It just goes it turns like a switch, and then he's like, no more, not my movie. That way.
But Sally Field, I thought was good. She tried.
Yeah, I mean, she always, she'll always give it her all, and she's Sally Field. She's amazing. But I don't know. If you could avoid a Sally Field movie, avoid this one. If you have to avoid one, there's a better Sally Field movie in 1991, and we're going to talk about it when we get to that in later this. It's in the summer, or in May, I think. So we'll get to it. Robot Jocks came out on January 11th.
I've never heard of this film.
It's a weird one. It came out, I think it was a direct-to-video release. So that was the deal with that. I tried watching it, and it's a little too low budge, and not in a way that kind of felt like it took away from what they were trying to do with it. It was Stuart Gordon film, and I love Stuart Gordon usually as a director, reanimator. He usually does a lot with a little, but this one it really felt like the budget constraints were kind of hurting the movie. I didn't quite care for the robot effects, and I just thought the story wasn't that engaging. I don't know. It just wasn't for me. I mean, if you want to look up Robot Jocks, it's kind of a warish kind of story, and that's another thing that I'm not into really. But it's just kind of a miss for me. Also out in January 11th, another video movie, Ski School, which I haven't watched in a while. I didn't watch it for this podcast, but I remember thinking it was kind of fun. Maybe not quite as classic as a lot of these other movies are, like a Police Academy or Moving Violations, or a lot of these kinds of movies where it's a group of people usually in a sporting situation or a situation like where they kind of have to be together and form some sort of team or bond together in a way. It was an okay one. This was mostly famous for having Dean Cameron in the lead, and Dean Cameron, of course, is the one half of Chainsaw and Dave in Summer School. It was fun for that, seeing him, but I don't know, it was a little bit annoying too. So not quite as classic for me. So I don't rewatch it as much as some other people might do, but it's on Blu-ray. I'm definitely a huge fan of Summer School. I could watch that one all the time. How about you? Did you watch? I think you mentioned you might have watched Ski School.
I did watch Ski School. I hadn't seen it before. I like the colors of like the ski outfits.
Yeah,
that's all I really remember.
Yeah,
it's kind of a bro ski comedy movie, which isn't really my thing.
It's very bro-y. You're right.
Yeah, I'm like happy for people who find joy with the film, though. So I can't hate on it too much.
Yeah, totally. If it's your bag, I get it. Because there are definitely movies like that I like, but for some reason this one is not quite there for me. But Dean Cameron fans, I think Patrick Labero, I don't know how to pronounce his name. He's in Heathers and a few other movies, and Summer School too. He's also in the movie.
House on the Prairie.
Oh, is that him? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right, sweet. And then going to January 18th, Dune Warriors was released, I think, direct-to-video, basically. And then, let's see what else. The End of Innocence, which was a movie that I did try watching for the podcast. And, I don't know, I couldn't get into this movie. It stars Diane Cannon of many movies, and John Hurd. It's about a woman's I think it's based on her life. Diane Cannon wrote and directed it. It basically traces like stuff that happened to her when she was a kid, and how and then as an adult, and how she has issues with men and her dad, and then she maybe has some rehab. She goes into rehab at some point. It's kind of like a junior Postcards from the Edge, but not good. Not anywhere as good. I don't know. I wanted to like it more, but I don't know. I just didn't quite find it as engaging as something like Postcards from the Edge. I do like Diane Cannon, and there's some good people in the movie, like John Hurd is in that movie. Rebecca Schaefer, who plays like a younger version of her. And a few other people, like recognizable faces, like Michael Madsen kind of shows up in the movie, and a few others. I wanted to like it more, but I don't know, just didn't quite gel together for me. But I did like this one. I'm going to throw in a TV spot for you because the TV spot is so good.
There's danger from a mysterious stranger. Minions will die if someone doesn't change her plan. There's a lethal come, got death on the mind, so we better find a hero before the clock hits 0.
We've got to be right about New York. Otherwise, a lot of innocent people are going to die.
She's a nuclear device. You best believe. Destruction's her vice. In her name is Eve. Yo, Eve of Destruction. Rated R. Starts Friday, January 18th at theaters everywhere.
Okay, that's Eve of Destruction. I did not watch Eve of Destruction in the theater. I don't know why, because it felt like a little cheap. I don't know, just like a cheap Terminator ripoff. And that's kind of what it is, to be honest. But the idea of Gregory Hines versus killer robot, nuclear armed robot, is kind of cheesy. But
he's such a good actor.
He really does make it convincing in a way, like, because he's really trying.
You're rooting for him.
You are rooting for him, and It is. You know what's the appealing thing about this movie is that it's like it's him versus her, and then it's like she ends up in New York. So a lot of the movie is probably like Canada. I don't know. It just feels like Canada, but then it eventually ends up in New York, and it gets very New Yorky because a lot of it's like in the subway systems, and there's a lot of apartment stuff in it. And it's entertaining, I gotta say. It's kind of also the idea of like it's a scientist who makes like this woman in her image, so it's like she's playing basically two roles. Mm-hmm. And this is Renee. Oh my god, another name it's really hard to pronounce. Renee Sotinjik.
Yeah,
she's from Amsterdam. You'll know her from like from older Dutch Paul Verhoeven movies. She's a really interesting actress, like in those movies. I don't know if maybe something was a little bit lost in translation with her performance in this one, but in the Dutch like Paul Verhoeven movies, especially like a movie like The Fourth Man, she's really good and she's really interesting. And here maybe it's like because she's playing, she's doing more of an American-ish thing, so it's a little bit something about it's a little bit stilted, but. I really enjoyed the movie. It's not a great movie, but it shows a little bit of that it's not quite as well put together as like a Terminator, but it was entertaining. I really did. I really did enjoy it. I never picked up the Blu-ray. It was by Scream Factory. I think it went out of print. But
okay.
If it comes back into print for whatever reason, I would pick it up. It's an entertaining movie.
Yeah, I'd be interested to hear like the director comment, like just some more commentary, maybe of like, was there any studio interference with this film?
Yeah, I want to tell you. I wanted to talk about the director a little bit. Duncan Gibbons was his name. Mm-hmm. He directed a movie that I really liked a lot called Fire with Fire from the 80s with Virginia Madsen and Craig Sheffer. It's about kind of star-crossed lovers, and she's at a Catholic school. He's like in a boys' detention center. I really love that movie. He directed that movie, but then he made this one. But sadly, he died not long after making this movie.
Really?
Yeah, in a really tragic way. There was like a big one of those big wildfires in California, and it kind of engulfed his house. And he got out, but then he went back in to save his cat, and then he ended up getting badly burned, and he died.
That's really awful.
The cat lived, thankfully, but it's really sad that he tried to rescue his cat, and that's what happened. So a lot of respect to Duncan Gibbons for being a hero for that.
Yeah,
but sadly,
this movie feels like it had some potential. Like.
Mm-hmm.
The director definitely seems like an interesting director.
Yeah, he had a music video background. He did like music videos for like ABC and Lisa Cult Jam and the Communards and a bunch of them. He had like a pretty big Bananarama. He had like a big Wham. Look at his credits. He did quite a few before doing features. So he had like definitely had a pedigree. He actually wrote this movie too, so he would have been really the person to talk to. Sadly, we never got that chance. But and also sadly, Gregory Hines also passed away way too young as well. So that's sorry to be a bummer. Even Destruction. It is a really fun movie, and that TV spot. It's just like I love a good rap TV spot, and I just love that it goes there. It's really cool.
I mean, I definitely think the New York sequences are the highlight. Like, once you get there, it's like, you're with it. You know what I mean?
It does, it does. It's a little bit of a slog sometimes to get to that point, but once it's New York and it's like this tense moment of like her, because she's like basically a nuclear bomb, and she's going into New York City to detonate it, detonate herself, and it's like, it gets kind of tense. So, which is surprising. As of course is a big set piece in the subway system. So that's cool. All right, that was Eve of Destruction. Also on January 18th, it seems like all the movies are released on January 18th. Flight of the Intruder. Here's a TV spot for it.
From the producer of The Hunt for Red October comes an adventure of courage.
Nice piece of cake.
conscience.
Good men die and all we care about is following the rules, huh?
Honor
You do not have the right to make up your own orders.
and friendship.
We never broke the faith, amigo.
Danny Glover, Willem Dafoe, Brad Johnson. Flight of the Intruder. Rated PG-13. Starts Friday, January 18th at theaters everywhere.
Now, I remember seeing this movie at the United Artists Sheepshead Bay Theater. Like, this is what we would do, because this was like the big theater in Brooklyn. It was in Sheepshead Bay. So what we do is I guess they didn't care as much as some of the other theaters. We would theater hop. Me, my grandmother, and my younger sister. So that day we watched. I have all the paper evidence that what we watched. We watched Godfather 3, Green Card, Kindergarten Cop, and Flight of the Intruder.
What a lovely day.
It was quite a big day of movies. So that's what we would do. We would go see like 3 or 4 movies at a time. Just to like spend the whole day in the movie theater.
Oh, that sounds so nice.
That was our winters, guys. Back in the day, back being a kid and in the 80s and 90s, we just see a lot of fucking movies because that was that was fun, and a cheap way to spend your day. So yeah, those other 3 movies were like holdovers from 1990, and so this one would be the 1991 one release. It was a war movie directed by John Milius. And I probably didn't like it as much as those other movies at the time. I just felt it was like maybe a little bit too like gung-ho American. And I'm sure that's the intention of the movie too, because it is, John Milius making a war movie. But it had a really good cast, I remember. It has Danny Glover, Willem Dafoe, Brad Johnson, Tom Sizemore, Rosanna Arquette, Ving Rhames is in it. There's a lot of like people, John Corbett, that you would recognize and know in this movie about another Vietnam. There's so many Vietnam movies in the 80s and 90s. This one has kind of like a court-martial hearing in the Philippines. I think towards later in the film, and that's like Subic Bay, which is where my wife's family comes from. So it was kind of cool seeing that, and of course, John Milius wrote Apocalypse Now, which was filmed in the Philippines. So there's that Philippines connection there. Watching it this time, I wasn't as invested in it, but it was interesting at the same time watching it. So it's not my kind of movie generally, but I thought it was a well-made movie.
Yeah, I agree. I watched this one for the first time recently, and I thought it was really well made. It seemed like they were going for like a Top Gun kind of Redux thing. But it was it looked really good. Brad Johnson looked really good. I thought it was like well made, but it wasn't that compelling and kind of like weirdly like pro-America.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think John Milius was trying to do his version of what he thought it should be, and then the studio, of course, wanted another Top Gun. This is the same studio that made Top Gun, so they were at odds with each other, and I think he had a horrible time making this movie. That's what I remember reading about it, and I thought it was good, but not something I'd watch again generally.
Yeah.
It was interesting seeing Willem Dafoe in this kind of movie too, because he doesn't usually do these kinds of movies.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, and Danny Glover was really good in it.
He was intense. Yeah, he had some intense moments. But I like seeing him in that role too.
It also has like a very like patriotic score. I think it's James Horner. I
think it's Basil Polidorus.
Oh, you're right. Yes, it has like a big like march kind of music score.
Yeah, he definitely did those kinds of scores pretty well. I think he did the Hunt for Red October. Movies definitely like that. I still think the score for Top Gun is more my thing, because it's so memorable to me.
Yeah.
All right. Here is our next movie, which I have never seen, but you have. So here's a TV spot.
Mike Battaglia is a soldier of the streets. Brutal, respected.
You find Mac Battaglia before they lay a hit on him, and when you find him, you treat him as a man of respect.
In his world, power is the final reward.
Tell me you don't want it.
I don't know what you're asking. Mikey?
Don't put a hand, Charlie! I don't know!
I did it.
Between a man and his woman.
What is it with me? I can't stop shaking.
It's done.
They got him crowned already.
Between a man and his army.
There's a war going on here!
Battaglia is mine.
Lies a war of deceit.
No! I'm gonna make them regret the day they were born! You lost right out, Mikey!
John Turturro, Catherine Borowitz, Dennis Farina, Peter Boyle, and also starring Rod Steiger. Men of Respect, a William Wiley film rated R. Starts Friday at select theaters.
Okay, so this is Men of Respect, and this is one that I had never seen before until recently. It's directed and written by William Riley, who also wrote another 1991 film, Mortal Thoughts, which is a pretty fun film.
Mm-hmm.
For some reason, it's his only directorial effort. I'm not sure why, because this one has a lot of flair to it.
Mm-hmm.
It's based upon Macbeth, but it's a mafia drama with John Turturro, who's a hitman, and he begins killing his way to the top of his clan. He's aided by his wife, who's actually his real wife, in Catherine Borowitz.
Okay.
She's actually a really good actress. She hasn't really done too much, like leading role-wise, except for this film. And she becomes the Lady Macbeth. It's filmed in New York. It has really good photography, kind of dark, shady photography. There's lots of courtyard scenes, which I love.
Mm-hmm.
It's filmed a lot in the West Village. There's a lot of familiar faces in the supporting cast, like Peter Boyle, Rod Steiger, Stanley Tucci, Lilia Scala from Lilies of the Field. She's playing like a psychic character who kind of a stand-in for the three witches characters in Macbeth. So this one is kind of like a nice little gem of a movie that I was happy to discover, just like going through the calendar of 91.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why I never got around to this movie. I think at the time I remember like not being into mafia movies.
Mm-hmm.
So that's probably why I totally skipped it. So I think I was, and there were also a lot of them at the time, so I probably got a little bit lost in the shuffle. There were a lot of mafia movies and a lot of hitman movies at the time. And
yeah,
so this one
like
kind of got
Godfather 3.
Yeah, Godfather 3 and Goodfellas, and then all the kind of rip-offs that came off that. There were so many of them.
Right.
So I kind of forgotten about it, and I never got around to it. So, but it sounds interesting. I like the Macbeth approach to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the reviews were not favorable when it came out, so
Really? Huh.
that's probably why it's kind of been forgotten about. But I thought it was really interesting. I don't know if it has a Blu-ray release. I
feel like Lionsgate or Artisan, if someone put it out on DVD, but I never picked it up. That's sad. But it might be streaming, so.
Yeah, I found it on streaming somewhere. I can't remember where, but yeah.
Look for Men of Respect. The next one is something I definitely saw in the theater. Here is the TV spot for it.
What are you doing this weekend? Last weekend in 9 lucky cities, audiences fell in love with Once Around, the movie critics are calling a moonstruck fable of life and love. A remarkably fresh comedy, touching, tender, and in every way terrific. First aid! This Friday and Saturday night, it's your chance.
No!
Yes! To sneak a very special look at Once Around. From the director of My Life as a Dog. Once Around. Rated R. Now playing in select areas. Special sneak preview Friday and Saturday night.
Okay, that's Once Around, which was, I guess, to me at the time, the best movie of 1981 when it came out, because there were at this point I only had seen like see, looking at the list, this is the second movie I saw in the theater in 1991, like the 1991 releases. I'm like, of those two, this is the best movie.
It was better than Flight of the Intruder for you.
It's better. Oh yeah, Flight of the Intruder, yeah, and then Lionheart. So this is the third one. This is the best of those three. This is a Lasse Hallström film. Now, Lasse Hallström had previously made My Life as a Dog, which I don't think I saw at the time. I remember coming to that one a little bit, maybe after this one. I'm trying to remember the timeline. I just don't remember seeing My Life as a Dog. I might have rented it in the late 80s, but because I remember a Paramount home video of it. Anyway, I went to see this in the theater because I liked the cast. I saw this at the United Artists Sheepshead Bay Theater. I saw this with Mermaids. I remember Mermaids. Seeing Mermaids for the second time.
Aww, what a good double feature.
I love Mermaids so much that I went to see that too, like 3 times. Mermaids. I think 3 times in the theater.
Oh, yeah.
And I did see this with my family, and it was a good movie to see with a family because it's all about a family, right? This is about a family in, I want to say, it's like Boston, like the suburbs of Boston. They're a big family. They're full of life. They're all up in each other's business all the time. And then in comes Holly Hunter's new boyfriend, Richard Dreyfuss. And he is larger than life himself. And he always wants to be the center of attention. And he kind of turns their lives upside down in a way because of who he is and his joy for life and his joy and his love for Holly Hunter. And besides Richard Dreyfuss and Holly Hunter, there's Danny Aiello as the dad, Jenna Rollins as the mom, Laura San Giacomo as the bitchy sister, Roxanne Hart, let's see, Tim Guinea. There's Griffin Dunn popped up in this movie. It's and some other people in the cast that play the family. It just really, I don't know, as an ensemble movie, it's so good. Like everyone plays so well off of each other in this movie. It feels like a movie that was maybe like so rehearsed, like a stage play, that just the way they interact with each other just feels so like they've been doing this a while, like they've been living together for a while, and they just play off of each other so well. That's what's really important in an ensemble movie. To see the dynamics between sisters, the dynamics between father-daughter, husband and wife, and this movie kind of runs the gamut of all those relationships, and especially, of course, how the Richard Dreyfuss character configures around all of them, and how he kind of annoys them, and but also kind of touches them in weird ways, and how he really has to try to break the ice with the dad, and how the dad just won't budge on it, but then eventually gets under his skin, and it just kind of goes to some interesting places with those characterizations that, I don't know, I found myself in 1981 when I saw this as 15 going on 16-year-old really loving. I'm like, I really dig what they're doing here with these characters and these actors playing these roles. Something I recognize right away as kind of something special, what movies can do, and how performance is so important, and a director who has a lot of insight into that, and how he lets the characters kind of like live and breathe. And I feel like this movie really does that really well. It's going for a Moonstruck-y kind of vibe with a vaguely Italian American family and in Boston, and but it does it in a way that doesn't really copy Moonstruck so much as becomes its own thing because of the outsider character played by Richard Dreyfuss and how that affects it. This was a passion project for Richard Dreyfuss, who was a producer on the film, something he really wanted to do, and it really shows. Like, he really does give a dynamic kind of larger than life performance, and I really dug him in it. I really just dug everyone. And seeing this movie again on DVD at home, I'm just like, oh yeah, this is why I really liked this movie at the time. It just kind of really struck a chord with me. It was very warm and inviting, and just like the perfect movie to watch. Like when you can't actually gather with family like you used to because of the situation that we're in, and it just felt like, okay, yeah, this is what I need right now, and I really, really appreciate it. So to me, this is maybe one of the best movies of the year because of that. It really kind of like struck a chord with me then and now, and it's something that I'm really into, and I gave it a good review. I gave it 3.5 stars back then. So I would stick to that. I think it was really good.
Yeah, I haven't seen this one in, it's probably been several years, so I definitely need to rewatch it. But I remember that just liking the ensemble a lot.
Yeah, I mean, everyone kind of like, you think they're going to be like the stereo, like I mentioned, the bitchy sister character, like played by Laura San Giacomo, but then it kind of, she is that, but then it's kind of like, oh, you understand kind of where she's coming from at the same time. So it's kind of, this movie goes to those places. And of course, I love Holly Hunter so much in everything she does. She's always like the best.
I love Holly Hunter.
she's so damn likable in this movie, and you can see why Richard Dreyfuss would fall, for her so quickly. And just full of, this movie's so full of life and vigor, and I really appreciated it. I did. Oh, I love that good. It was written by somebody who worked on Sleepaway Camp. So there you go.
Oh my God, really?
Yeah, the writer, Malia Scott Schmarmo, which is like maybe one of the best names ever. Worked as a production PA on Sleepaway Camp.
Oh, what a genius!
She certainly was. All right. And I think she also worked on Hook, so there you go.
Oh, wow.
All right. Also on January 18th, finishing up the week, Rikyu, The Terror Within 2 was direct-to-video, and Disney's White Fang, which I remember seeing, but I don't know. And that movie was really popular, too. I think they even made a sequel to it. And I think Ethan Hawke was in it, White Fang. I remember seeing it at a theater. I just didn't want to revisit it this time because I don't know. I don't even think I need to see White Fang again. I'm good.
Yeah, you know what? I revisited it.
Oh yeah, how was it?
It's a little boring, to be honest.
Yeah,
it's a nice film, but
yeah,
this was definitely one they showed to us like in middle school, like on cassette tape, like. They rolled out the TV and like played White Fang. It's not really that exciting, but Ethan Hawke is good. It's pretty to look at.
Right.
Disney, I think The Rocketeer was that this year as well.
Yeah, that was this year. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting how they made these kind of like prestige like period pieces like for kids.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
the movies were very like handsomely made, but not too. This one was not too exciting for me to rewatch. I kind of wish I watched once again instead.
I guess. I guess if you're really a big fan of the Jack London novel, this is your movie. But yeah, I see what you're saying though. Like, it's a prestige movie. They're like looking at the poster for it's like a painted artwork. So I don't know who they thought. I mean, I guess there was an audience for it because it did well. But kids, I don't know if kids were like flocking. Their parents might have been dragging them to see it more than the kids.
Yeah, or like teachers, or if you're doing a book report on White Fang, you probably like watch the movie.
That's probably what. Yeah, exactly. And it was like a few of those kinds of movies. Like Disney kept doing that template over and over, I guess too. I remember another movie like Iron Will. There was another like dog. There was always like a dog movie once every few years, like Disney. And I remember the one from the 80s that I really liked, The Journey of Natty Gann.
Oh yeah,
that was the good one. That's for me. All right. On January 24th, direct-to-video was 9.5 Ninjas. That's what we needed. A mashup of 9.5 Weeks and 9.5 and Ninjas. And then on January 25th, they released Too Much Sun, which is there's a trailer for it, but it's a really long trailer. So I'm not gonna play it out because it's like 3 minutes long trailer. You might fall asleep, but it's a really bonkers kind of movie that was directed by Robert Downey Sr. And I don't know if you guys are fans of Robert Downey Sr. movies, but he definitely is a he definitely loves a certain kind of satire that might not be for everybody. I personally love his stuff. I think he's kind of out there. This one has a great cast, of course. There's Alan Arbus, there's Robert Downey Jr., there's James Hong, there's Eric Idle, Ralph Macchio, Andrea Martin is in this movie, Leo Rossi. It's basically about a family who kind of get together because the dad wants to leave his money to one of his children if they can bear a child, but they both of his children happen to be gay. So I think it's like the wackiness that ensues because of that. They're them trying to have like an illegitimate child, and then one arises from the past, and it gets kind of really silly and over the top. Jennifer Rubin's also in the movie too. It just gets really silly and over the top, but in a fun kind of quirky way. It's a very quirky movie. He makes very quirky movies. So I'm on board for it, but it's not a movie that maybe I'd recommend to everybody to rent out to go see. I just kind of like into those kinds of little quirky independent movies that came out in the early 90s like this. And he did a few of them. Robert Downey Sr., like he was making, he did one with Jennifer Tilly and Martin Mull called Rented Lips. He did a movie a little bit later in the 90s with Alyssa Milano and Patrick Dempsey and a bunch of other people. And I think Robert Downey Jr. also pops up in that one in a weird role. It just like kind of like these weird families in California. Mm-hmm. Movies, like weird things that happen. But yeah, I'm into this one.
Did this like come to the theater? Like, was this like an independent like?
This one played in theaters. Like, yeah, it played independently in New York and LA. I doubt it went anywhere else.
Yeah.
It basically got a prominent video release through RCA Columbia, and so probably a lot of people rented it because like the Karate Kid's in it, or Robert Downey Jr. was in it, and then like, what is this weird ass movie? But Andrea Martin and Eric Idle are actually really, really fucking funny in it.
I love her. She's great.
Yeah. Okay, that was Too Much Sun. Another movie that came out on January 25th. I can't play a trailer for it because it's another language. That might be too confusing for you. It's the original version of The Vanishing. Now, this movie came out, I think it was made in 88. But it didn't make it to the U.S. release. Because I always go by the U.S. release dates for movies. Yeah. When movies came out. It
didn't come to the theater till 91.
Yeah, it didn't make it into New York until 91. It probably played film festivals, but that's not how I gauge my really personal... The way I track calendars and release dates, I count it by an actual theatrical release in New York or LA or somewhere in the U.S. where it was released. And got a real release, not like a film festival release. And so Sporlos, or The Vanishing, I think you might know this one because it was remade in 1993 with Kiefer Sutherland and Jeff Bridges and Nancy Travis. It was remade by the same director, George Sluzier. Remade his own movie for American audiences. And that's kind of like become more fashionable now to do that, but it wasn't kind of uncommon where directors were kind of remaking their own movies. It happened, of course, in past. Like Hitchcock had remade his own movie. Like a few directors had done that before, but I think it wasn't happening too much. So it's interesting that it did end up happening that way. I personally like both versions, but I think, of course, the original version is the best version because it has such a... It really goes there with the ending. Won't give anything away. Of course, this is about a man who kind of lives like a very ordinary life, decides one day to like say, okay, what if I kidnap someone and kill them? And see what he just wanted to experience that in his life because he lives like this very ordinary life. And then of course it traces the husband of this woman who gets they're on vacation, and then they're at a service station, and she goes in for something, and then she's abducted and never comes back, and traces about how where his mind goes, the husband's mind goes, and his relentless search for her, and of course, but then it also shows you the abductor's side and how his mind works, and it's a really, really good film. It's definitely one of the best films of the year. It really goes there, like I said, with the ending, where the American remake kind of doesn't, and that's what the big problem that a lot of people have with the American remake. But what I like about the remake is the performances, especially by Jeff Bridges. It's maybe a little bit more accessible to the story because of that. But I think both films are good, but especially this original version, which I think is quite powerful, and it's a really good film from the Netherlands. So
yeah, I remember it being like very eerie. Like,
yeah,
I haven't seen this one in a while, but it like stuck with me for a few days afterwards, for sure.
It definitely did. Well, it's one of those movies that will stick with you, and it's not a very flashy movie or anything. It's just the way he chooses to succinctly tell this story, and of course, when seeing these kinds of movies from the perspective of the victim, or the perpetrator, it's kind of interesting seeing both sides in a way. So kind of when they do that, it's kind of interesting. There weren't many movies. Like I remember, like Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer was one of those movies that came out around in the late 80s and early 90s, where just we were showing that side of it. Like, oh, that's really disturbing. This is one of those movies. Shock 'Em Dead came out on January 31st. That starred Tracy Lords. That was direct to video. I don't think I've ever watched that movie, but it came out.
Sounds fun.
Okay, guys, we're going to take a break. We'll be back right after this. In nomine Christi, Amen.
Quelle est ta religion?
February, which of course is our favorite short month of the year, there was a release. Let's say going in alphabetical order. Here is the trailer for the release on February 1st, the first one.
So you got any new hot books, Spider? I just got these in yesterday. Look at this. They're based on what I like to call the facts of life. Candy and Durwood go camping? Sounds educational.
In Jack Twiller's imagination, he's a legend in his own time.
My tent won't stay up, Jack.
Unfortunately, it stopped right there.
Hey, Wanda, I can finally introduce you to Jack Twiller.
Get lost, creep.
He's an average American guy.
You come around tonight and watch my sister take a bath.
With just one burning desire.
Did you meet any girls today?
Are you meeting any girls? Hi, Gina, this is Jack. Hi, Gina, this is Jack. Hello. Hi, Jack, this is Gina.
Drop dead. He thinks about it.
Hey, big guy, want to change my oil?
I got a vivid imagination.
He dreams about it.
Tired of getting sand kicked in your face?
The only thing he doesn't do...
Anybody lays a hand on my sister, I kick his slats in.
...is get it.
My problem is I'm just not cool.
So he's getting some wheels.
Now we're gonna fix her up. Hey, Meathead, Critch, can you hand me the vice grips, please?
He's getting some style.
I wanted to ask you,
He's getting some class.
Go, baby, go!
It's a sophisticated little gathering. Nothing violent.
He's kind of cool, no?
So what's missing?
Did you school? How'd you guys do?
Oh, I mean, it was last night. It was like 4 or 5 times.
Find out in The Book of Love. It's a rite of passage where not everything goes right.
Do you have a pencil in your pocket?
Okay, that's the trailer for Book of Love. This was a teen comedy, so it was nice to have a teen comedy finally. And there's going to be quite a few more coming in 1991, but this one was kind of like the nostalgia teen comedy that was directed by Mr. New Line himself, Robert Shea. And it was based on a novel, but I think kind of he fashioned it a little bit to be about his childhood as well. It's basically about horny teenagers in the 50s trying to hook up with girls, and that's basically the movie. There's not a lot. There really isn't a lot to it, honestly. It's like really about a nice guy, but he's also kind of a horny teenager, played by Chris Young and his friends like Keith Coogan and a few other, Danny Nucci, a few others, like John Cameron Mitchell's one of his friends. Who are just trying to hook up with girls the whole movie, and they throw parties. they just do a lot of silly shenanigans. I guess the gimmick to this one is that sometimes he sees like book and magazine characters come to life, like in his mind. It's kind of a cool little perspective, like seeing those things, and they're like giving him advice or bad advice. It's fun seeing that. Yeah, it really is a simple movie about that, and it's sweet at times. It's very like Porky's at times. Josie Bissett is the girl that he likes. Josie Bissett of Melrose Place. But then there's another girl that like the bad guy sister that he likes as well. So it's like one of those kinds of movies. So it's about him finding himself as a teenager in the time period, but also, you know, finding the right girl for him. That kind of movie. And I think it's a kind of a cute little movie. I have it on DVD, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed revisiting it. It was kind of it is what it is kind of movie, and I enjoyed it for what it was.
I like that you're going through these movies, because this one I've never heard of this movie, and I don't know, it sounds really fun. So
I didn't see
these are like kind of forgotten films, I feel like.
Yeah, I think definitely like movies that slip between the cracks kind of movie, because it came out in theaters. I saw it in the theater. It was actually at the Fort Wayne Theater. I saw it with Run. And I gave it 3 stars, so I liked it then too. And yeah, I enjoyed it. And I enjoyed it this time. And I definitely remember, I maybe I haven't watched it. I think maybe watched it once or twice over the years. So it's not the kind of movie that maybe I've watched a lot, but it's enjoyable, especially because I like teen comedy so much. Maybe that's kind of why I went on my way to track it down or to see it. So before it left theaters.
Is it only on DVD?
Yeah, it's a DVD release. I don't know if it's in print or still, but it's still, that's how I have it, and I had it on VHS before that, I think. I like that movie. Okay, next up is a trailer. Here it is. I'll play it right here.
Every year, Family Bazaar consults the U.S. Census Update.
You and your family have been chosen by our publication as the most normal family in America.
Johnny, eat some more sugar. You're still growing.
The people who brought you Heathers would like you to meet the Applegates.
Okay, crawlers, rise and mutate.
Applegate, Jane, age 38, occupation homemaker. I met my husband at Maryland University, where I majored in home economics.
I happened to find a pile of rancid trash.
Hunting for bargains, Jane?
Applegate, Sally, born Baltimore 1971, Scorpio. I enjoy swimming, chicken McNuggets, and gymnastics. Kiss on the second date.
Whoa, time out. Such a tasty new neighbor.
Applegate Johnny, hobbies include science, baseball, and,
heavy metal music.
Do you think we're jeopardizing the mission by bringing the children along?
No, they're good for our image, Jane.
They're the typical American family.
Census Bureau records now list the Applegates as hitting every statistical norm right on the nose.
With typical family problems.
What do you think about putting down that brochure and doing a little mating?
You know we're not in season.
At home.
Sally, what happened to your stomach?
I've got a bun in the oven.
Meet the Applegate kids, a couple of losers!
Parents are pigs.
Hello?
At the store.
All you've done is spend money.
I'm just trying to act like a normal American housewife.
At the office.
This is a nuclear power plant, not a cat house.
You're a disgrace to your species!
There goes the neighborhood.
It would be easy for them to fit in.
Something really weird about that family.
If they could only get the bugs out.
Sonic bug repellent. It drives those little creatures bonkers.
Ed Begley Jr., Stockard Channing, and Dabney Coleman as Aunt Bee.
You Homo sapien scum!
They wouldn't harm a fly. Bingo.
Meet the Applegates, a new species of comedy.
Okay, that's a trailer for Meet the Applegates, which I did not see in the theater. This is a movie I watched on video because I kind of didn't look good to me. Like when I saw it, like what's this image of like this family in suburbia, but they all have like bug antennas on their head? Like what is that about? And it turns out they are bugs, but they're pretending to be a family. So, yeah, it's a strange plot. It's like a colony of insects moved from South America to the United States with the intent of getting access to the nation's nuclear resources. Okay. But they kind of disguise themselves as like a family from the 50s, even though I think it's supposed to be set in modern times. So it's a little bit of that Brady Bunch-ish kind of vibe before the Brady Bunch movie came out. And it's kind of a really strange movie. This was written and directed by Michael Lehman, who did Heathers right before this. I wouldn't say it has a Heathers vibe specifically, but it does have a little bit of it. A little bit of a Leftovers Heathers feel to it. So there's a bit of satire in there about the nuclear family experience and the high school experience with the teenagers. Ed Begley Jr. is the dad. Stockard Channing is the mom. The kids are recognizable, but I don't know who they are exactly. Glenn Shaddix from Heathers is in there. Dabney Coleman plays a Aunt Bee. And he's a bug as well, but he's like maybe as a bug with a sexual identity crisis. And yeah, there's recognizable faces, but it's a really strange movie. And I think I was avoiding it because of the bug factor. I have a bug phobia.
I kind of do too, and I was wondering, is it like super buggy, or is it like, can I watch it and be okay?
I guess it's kind of like okay, because they're like when they become bugs, it's kind of really like they're in like kind of suits, it really is kind of silly. But then there's some really disgusting moments in it as well.
Yeah. And Stockard Channing is there, so I think I'll be okay.
Yeah. I wish she had more to do. I feel like she is the mom, like playing that 50s mom, and she's kind of a little bit limited by it, but I think there's some moments that they do get to shine. I think Ed Begley Jr. gets a lot more to do in the movie than she does. That part, I'm like, oh, that's a little bit of a missed opportunity for Stockard Channing, because I really like her. But yeah, it does concentrate a bit on the kids and their misadventures in high school a lot. I guess because that was the popular time, doing more teenager things. But yeah, it's a weird one. It is a weird one. I think I was able to watch it on YouTube. So
okay,
because I don't think it's gotten a release on DVD or Blu-ray. So that's sad.
Maybe that will change with like everyone loves Heathers, so I don't know.
Yeah, I'm surprised. I'm surprised it hasn't because of that, because Heather's gotten released like several times on Blu-ray now.
Right.
So, yeah, no Meet the Applegates for some reason. I don't know. I don't know how proud Michael Lehman is of it. I mean,
okay.
There is. I think it's a movie that has a lot potential, and I think it does. It's an odd one. So, but I think I definitely enjoyed it for what it did, for sure. It was kind of like, maybe a little better than I thought it would be, kind of movie. Okay, and then a TV spot for a movie I saw in the theater as well. A movie I definitely saw in the theater. A movie in a theater. And here it is.
Before Halloween. Before Friday the 13th. Before A Nightmare on Elm Street. There was... Now he's back. Popcorn. Buy a bag. Go home in a box. Rated R. Starts Friday, February 1st at theaters everywhere.
All right, so that's the TV spot for a popcorn. I love popcorn. I think I've talked about popcorn before in this podcast. I'm sure I have. I love movies set in movie theaters.
What a fun film.
It's so fun.
Would you rather watch White Fang or popcorn?
I know, like, really. Like what would a 15, 16-year-old do in 1991? Go see White Fang or popcorn? Now, it might have been harder to get into popcorn because it was rated R than White Fang. But I don't know. Buy a ticket for White Fang. Sneak into popcorn. I went to see it at the Kenmore Theater. For some reason, I never had a problem really getting to R-rated movies. I think they didn't care.
Yeah.
That's why I would stick to theaters that I knew I could get into easily. Maybe this is a New York thing. But I went to see it at the Kenmore Theater because I think I wanted to see it in a more local to me theater, but it wasn't playing there, so I had to go travel on a train to go see this movie. And you know what? I loved it.
I can't imagine. And the poster art and everything, like, you must have been like so excited to see it.
It's so perfect. I think I already had a crush on Jill Sholin, and I knew she was in this movie because she's basically the part of the cover art, the poster art, and Dee Wallace is in this movie, and just the idea of like film students putting on a show, a horror movie show. That's what you do, of course, when you're a film student. You put on a whole horror marathon of movies, of old movies. And I love the recreations of the old movies. I think they're so perfect. And this is definitely one of those movies that has like a low budget, but really does makes the most out of it. It feels a lot bigger than it probably should. They filmed it they also filmed it in Jamaica, of all places.
In Jamaica. And there's lots of Jamaican, like, awesome music in the movie, too.
It's so weird. Like, there's things in this movie that should not work. The very fact of this movie, the original director was, like, there was fired, and, like, there were, like, basically, like, 3 people directed this movie. One of them was one of the actors from Porky's, and then Bob Clark himself, from the director of Porky's, like, filmed some stuff in this movie. I think the original director might have been the guy who the lead star of Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things, Alan Ormsby.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
and then Mark Harrier had to take over for him, and then Bob Clark stepped in to do some stuff. So it's kind of like one of those movies that was probably like a nightmare shoot, and then the lead actress was fired. The girl who was in Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, she was the lead actress, and then she was replaced with oh my god, Jill Sholin, and
our girl Jill.
Our girl Jill. Yes. I'm gonna leave all of this stuff in, all my all my screw ups, because that's the Scotch.
I like Kelly Jo Minter too from
I love her.
Nightmare 5. I was like, oh, she's so good. I wish she did more stuff.
And Summer School.
Yeah.
And she has a silent performance in Lost Boys too. She works at the video store, but you never get to hear her say anything.
Oh wow! Yeah, she's really like charming. I like her.
I love her. Yeah, she's great. And, like all the actors, you can tell they're really doing they're really trying to make it fun. And Tom Villard as I won't say more, but he's really good in his role, and a kind of a complicated performance. And he's sadly an actor who died way too young. And of course Mr. Hand himself, Ray Walston, shows up in his one scene, and of course what's his name from Annie Hall is the teacher. Wow, it's kind of like, I'm sorry, Tony Roberts. My God.
Yeah.
Scotch is really getting to me. It's just like there's so much to love in it. And I don't know, it's just kind of everything about Bruce Glover is like.
Well, it's just such an amazing cast. It's hard to keep track of everything.
Such an amazing cast. I do love this movie, and I'm glad you are a fan of it as well.
Mm-hmm. I am. I also feel like I need the Blu-ray, because I don't feel like this movie looks that good on whatever I watched it on.
Yeah. the Blu-ray looks amazing.
It does. Okay, I need to get it. Yeah.
It has I think it was I feel like it was like a feature-length documentary about the movie too.
That sounds really great.
So it's like, it was worth it. And I think I revisited the documentary too, and yeah. Get the Synapse Blu-ray. I think I got the original release of it, the steelbook version. So it was kind of expensive, but they might have released a standard version of it by now.
I think they did, yeah.
So yeah, definitely worth picking up. I urge you all to pick up popcorn. If you like movies like I do, buy a bag, go home in a box, and watch popcorn.
What was it like seeing popcorn in the theater?
It was interesting because it wasn't very crowded. It was kind of sad because I want it to be like the theater in that movie where everyone is like filled up. It's like a filled up theater with people who are really into seeing these 50s sci-fi movies. But it wasn't the case. There was just a handful of people. Sadly.
There was no reggae interludes or anything.
Oh, no, I wish. If I could go back in time. I have a film can in my den video store that housed film prints from Studio 3, which is a company that made this movie. They also released Rich Girl with Jill Sholin, a movie that I love, and also Amanda Reyes is a big fan of it. We bonded over that movie, actually. It definitely says on the film can Rich Girl was housed in there. I'm thinking popcorn might have been too, because they would often switch out, and just put in whatever's next. So I want to think that the film can in my den has housed all these wonderful Studio 3, the short-lived Studio 3 productions. That would be amazing. Man, I love this movie. I really do. I will sing its praises to the end of time.
Yeah.
I love the possessor character. I liked it in the trailer that we listened to. It was like, I love that it capitalizes on forget about Halloween and Friday the 13th as the possessor. It's like, for real. They're really trying to make something out of it, like a real villain. But I don't think that's it was fated to be. I think it was always fated to be a cult movie, and it certainly is. For me, a cult movie, but also a movie that's really held up in time for me. I think it just, whether it's nostalgia, but I think the movie is kind of fun, and it really does kind of have a joy to it, and strangely, when all those things that, like we mentioned, went on in it.
Yeah, and correct me if I'm wrong, but like, weren't a lot of like horror movies that were released in the theaters, right? And this year in '91,
there are not a lot. No, so this was like the first horror movie we're talking about, right?
What was going on? What happened?
I don't know what happened. There weren't a lot. There were, I guess, more direct to video. I feel like that's where they were. That's where you would find the horror movies, I guess, more so.
Yeah.
It seemed like comedies and action movies were kind of the forefront, and then horror movies was kind of taking a back seat a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Especially in theaters, it seems like. There's not a lot. I'm looking through the list now of all the 91 movies. There are definitely horror movies, and certainly we're going to talk about one coming up, but not as much, sadly, in 91. Not the best time.
It's the year Freddy died too, right?
Exactly. 3D. Yeah, there's something in the air about horror, I guess. Sadly. All right, let's move on to the next title. Here is the trailer.
9 adults, sort of. An anniversary that could lead to a divorce. A wedding that could turn into a breakup. And 4 crazy days. There's a certain logic to it all.
Al, when you dance, you gotta let the other person lead once in a while.
It's a place in New York where people think with their hearts and tell it like it is.
You're planning on leaving me at the altar, aren't you?
The neighborhood's really different.
Oh, what happened to your friend? He's a white man who thinks he's James Brown.
And so is the way they think.
Look at him, he's so cute.
I'm a little bit quiet in here!
Cute. The guy buys a new Monte Carlo every year because his name is Monty.
If it ain't a little crazy,
I hate sleeping alone!
it ain't any good.
I'll take the kids to my place. There hasn't been domestic violence there since your father died.
Queen's Logic. What a world.
It's an interesting group of friends for a guy who runs a fish store.
What a life.
I will be the first to admit I want to die. But let's kill one of them first.
What a neighborhood.
That is so beautiful.
Kevin Bacon, Linda Fiorentino, John Malkovich, Joe Mantegna, Ken Olin, Tony Spiridakis, Tom Waits, Chloe Webb, and Jamie Lee Curtis. Queen's Logic. We're talking human experience here.
I'm just a kid from Queens who's making it big in Hollywood, I might mention. So what do you do?
Okay, that was the trailer for Queen's Logic, a movie that I saw in the theater at the Lowe's 19th Street East. I immediately loved it. I went to see it because I knew Jamie Lee Curtis was in it, and I wanted to go see whatever she was in. And, she didn't have the biggest part in the movie because it is an ensemble movie. She is kind of a relatively small part of the movie, but she's really memorable in it.
Huge impact and very satisfying scene that she gives.
This is basically a movie about friends, lifelong friends in Queens, and they're just kind of banded together because one of them's getting married, and it's like kind of like shows you their bachelor party and like their ups and downs of relationships between the husbands and wives or future husbands and wives as well, and then just like kind of like just the ensemble, just traces that ensemble, and it's filled with a lot of recognizable people: Kevin Bacon, Linda Fiorentino, John Malkovich, Joe Mantegna, Ken Olin from 30 Something, Tony Spiridakis, who also wrote the movie, Tom Waits is in this movie, Chloe Webb is in this movie, Kelly Bishop is in this movie, Terry Kinney, Ed Marinaro, Jenny Wright's in this movie, and Todd Field shows up, Leanne Curtis, Megan Mullally is in this movie, Richard Kind.
Right.
and I'm leaving out Jamie Lee Curtis. Like, it's like, what a cast. Just the fact that, like, John Malkovich is also, like, a major character in this movie is amazing. I really love the cast of this movie, and I think it's a really warm ensemble movie. I don't know what the version... I watched it on DVD, and it's like for some reason, the version that I watched on DVD is, like, really... made it seem very, like... not it had like almost a warm, like a very warm tone to it. I don't know. They must have put some filter over it. So it was very.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you that because that's how it was where I watched it too. Like, is that the original?
I don't remember it being like that in the theater for some reason, but for some reason the home video versions maybe it was a choice. I don't know. It seems to be like they put this like kind of like warmish tone over the movie. It made it feel even more cozy, I guess, in a weird way.
I know. I thought it was like really beautiful. And I looked up the cinematographer. He did Blue Steel and Pacific Heights, which both have really cool visual looks to them.
And of course, Blue Steel feels very cold, and this one feels very warm. It's interesting the difference in the two movies. This is also directed by Steve Rash, who did Can't Buy Me Love. which I love. We mentioned it was written by Tony Spiridakis, who's in this movie. He plays like the actor character. It's one of those warm ensemble movies that will live and die by its cast, but I think they do a really good job. And Joe Jackson, Mr. Stepping Out himself, did the music. He composed the music for it. And there's a lot of like songs in it. The song heavy soundtrack, which I love. I don't know, I've watched this one quite a few times over the years on home video, and every time I watch it, I feel like I really get into it. I always get into it and really get into the characters. Now, Joe Mantegna's character is a bit much. Like, he can be really annoying, but that's why you have Jamie Lee Curtis' character to show up and to kind of, like, I don't know, to put him in check.
That's why I loved her so much. I wasn't expecting that detour.
That detour is so cool. Tell me more.
Are they in like a gourmet garage? Like they show like the shot of like the grocery store, and it's kind of like where Gourmet Garage is in the West Village.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I was like, is this like an early template of Gourmet Garage, where she buys her like blue box French cigarettes? She's just really eccentric.
Yeah, she really did. When she shows up, it's like, whoa, it's like this outsider character that... I love when the movies do this. They have the outsider character, and that person could be like anything, right? And she really does kind of go, and it goes in a unique place with that. And a nice break from like the very like bro-y Queens guys who are up to no good. But then you have a nice balance too with like with the John Malkovich character who's you're like questioning a lot, like why is he friends sometimes, like but then he kind of reveals himself more as time goes on, and you get like his sense of I don't know, just because they've been childhood friends, like you get the sense that they all love each other in kind of interesting ways.
Yeah,
I just like where it goes with everyone.
I like that he's like the tape deck DJ at this courtyard party.
That's right.
Playing Best of My Love and Got to Be Real.
The soundtrack is so good, which is probably why this movie doesn't get played a lot, because of the soundtrack. The licensing is hard. But it's so good.
Are you a fan of Eddie too? By Steve Rash?
Oh, of course. I love Eddie. Yeah. I even love the movie he did with Pauly Shore, Son-in-Law.
Oh yeah.
I'm not afraid to admit it. I love a good fish out of water movie.
Filmography.
Yeah.
This one is really good, though. I really like this one. It's like kind of like a good hangout Richard Linklater kind of movie. I don't know.
It's definitely very hangouty. I agree. And I like that you see like you do get to switch to to Linda Fiorentino and Chloe Webb's point of view once in a while, which is nice.
Yeah.
Get a little balance. Because, some of the guys here are, like I said, we can be a bit much at times. Mm-hmm. But the movie does illustrate that they're just kind of fools. And
Yeah.
It's wise to, do that.
And she's so good, Linda I love her.
Oh yeah, she's definitely always a force of. I always love seeing her in movies when she shows up.
I could go watch The Last Seduction again right now.
It's so good.
It's such an amazing film.
That was like the performance that really deserved an Oscar.
Oh my god, yes.
But was sadly not meant to be. Really good. And I think this is kind of a sleeper movie. I think Queen's Logic might be a movie passed up at the video store because it looks like a little bit too, I don't know, maybe a little too. It really does try to go for the 30-something. Like you look at the poster art, like, oh yeah, look, they're trying to go for 30-something. They even have a guy in 30-something in the movie, but it's a little bit more than that. I think it really does. Like, I mean, I love 30-something. Don't get me wrong, but it's less sitcom, more like you say, a fun hangout movie that goes in some quirky, interesting places.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, glad you're a fan too.
Yeah.
Here's a TV spot for a movie I saw as a double feature with Book of Love.
From Hollywood Pictures, he's been framed.
I didn't kill anybody!
He's being hunted. He's got nowhere to turn.
That's him. They didn't see me.
It's the guy in the news.
They didn't see me. The kid? Yeah, they saw me.
There's only one thing
Everyone is in on this.
Charlie Farrell can do. To stay alive, he has to run. Rated R. Starts Friday, February 1st at a theater near you.
Okay, that's Run, starring Patrick Dempsey, who I mentioned this before with Can't Buy Me Love. He is this college student who has to transport a car. I can't remember exactly now where it was. Like I think maybe he starts off in Boston and he ends up gambling at some place, and then he gets into trouble and he witnesses a murder, and then basically spends the entire movie on the run. When this movie is called Run, they really mean it. This is like an ultimate like chase movie. He's being chased for the entire movie, and it's like 90 minutes of that, and I love that about it.
Ooh, 90 minutes is a nice length.
Yeah, it doesn't feel long. It feels like the right amount of time. And, he's charismatic because it's Patrick Dempsey, who is always charismatic in his roles. And just kind of following him as he's getting chased around by mafia guys. And then, he meets up with Kelly Preston, who's... I can't remember. She's a waitress or something, and then they're both on the run. And he kind of gets her mixed up in it, and they're chasing after him. It's kind of very no frills even by the numbers in a way, but in a really entertaining way. So I was all down for Run when it came out. Let's see what I gave it. I think I gave it 3 stars. Yep, 3 stars. I enjoyed Run. I gave it a B.
I have to watch this one. It sounds fun.
Yeah, it's fun. It really is fun. I think it's streaming too somewhere. I think I remember seeing it on Prime or something. I think that's how I even watched it. I have the VHS copy from Hollywood Pictures, but it's streaming. Last time I checked. But if you're in the mood for that kind of like chase movie, it definitely hits the spot. And I think Patrick Dempsey and sadly Kelly Preston are a good pair. So.
Yeah, I am into Kelly Preston because I recently, one of like COVID cozy movies that I watched was Spellbinder. I was just like really into that film.
I love that movie.
And it was really fun. So I'll have to watch this one and see what she does here.
Yeah, Spellbinder is like a really cozy, great to watch at like late at night movie.
It's really good.
Yeah. I think Ben Scher and I talk about that one a lot. It's really cozy. Okay, that was February 1st. February 8th, I, Caramella came out. And then here is a TV spot for this movie.
I thought that possibly I'd take you on a, cultural tour of LA.
Yeah, I must admit, when I see a painting like this, I get emotionally erect.
Bon appetit. Gee, I'm done already, and I don't remember eating.
I'll have a decaf espresso.
I'll have a double decaf cappuccino.
Do you have any decaffeinated coffee ice cream?
I'll have a half double decaffeinated half cap with a twist of lemon.
L.A. Story.
I'll have a twist of lemon.
I'll have a twist of lemon. Yeah, I'll have a twist of lemon.
I'll have a twist of lemon.
Okay, that's a TV spot for LA Story, which I saw. Let's see, this is another one of those United Artists, Sheepshead Bay. Saw 3 movies. I saw this with Nothing But Trouble and Sleeping with the Enemy.
In one day?
In one day.
Oh, my goodness.
I remember really enjoying this one the most. And then I really enjoyed Sleeping with the Enemy as well. And then Nothing But Trouble. I did, yeah. We'll get there. I was a fan of Steve Martin already by this point, so I was a big fan of his movies. I think my favorite Steve Martin movie at the time was probably The Lonely Guy was up there. I watched that one a lot. I had a VHS copy of that pretty early on. And All of Me, I watched a lot. I also had a VHS copy of that. Yeah. And then I was into definitely his other movies at the time, like Parenthood and a few other things that he did. But I feel like those are the 2 that I watched a lot for some reason. Roxanne. I love Roxanne.
He's such a smart writer.
Yeah, such a smart writer. And then he wrote Roxanne. He wrote this movie. Of course, this is his take on LA. Now he's a good writer of satire, but what he wisely does with this movie is he could have went for the cheap jokes about LA and how dumb people can be. But I think he does it in such an interesting, beautiful way in this movie. There's a lot of beauty in this movie, which is surprising. I'm trying to look at what I gave it back then. I gave this movie 4 stars.
Oh my gosh, you were in love with LA
I gave it
Story.
an A. TriStar, PG-13, 99 minutes, EA Sheepshead Bay, 4 stars, A. I loved LA Story then, and I still love it now, to be honest. I think it's really well done. He goes above and beyond the satire and makes like a beautiful story about this guy. It's very wacky in this comedy, of course, but about love in LA. And of course, he finds love with this outsider character. This one played by his wife at the time, Victoria Tennant. And he's attracted to her because she's different from everybody else. She's English. She observes things she's very quick-witted, like he is. They're involved with other people. Like he's involved with Mary Lou Henner, and she's in a relationship sort of with Richard E. Grant.
Oh, I love Richard.
Oh yeah, I love him in this, and I love him in general. He's so good.
Yeah.
I think another actor who should have gotten an Oscar for Can You Ever Forgive Me? He deserved it, man.
I know, and it's funny because he has been in so many things that you forget about. You know what I mean? Because he's so good. So good. Everyone in this movie gives a really fun performance. Sarah Jessica Parker is a bouncy Sandy. Big S, small A, small N, big D, small E, big E, Sandy. She writes on Steve Martin's hand. There's a lot of people pop up in this movie. Like I could rattle off all the names, but it's like a big cast. But it's just so well done. And it's kind of like a funny and beautiful look at LA at the time. And I immediately fell in love with it. Yeah. And it holds up. And yeah, did you watch this one at the time or later on? Or I feel like it's something I saw like on Cinemax or something like later on. But I remember it being very like visually like stunning too. Like the LA look of it.
It's so early 90s in the best possible way. It's so like it really captures the moment.
Yes.
And yeah, and of course in the writing and observed comedy of Steve Martin, but in the look of it and everything, just what LA looked like at the time, I just love that. Such a time capsule movie. Of all the movies like we've talked about, this is really a time capsule movie so far.
Yeah, probably this and Ski School.
Yes, Ski School certainly, when it's very bright, neon-y kind of look outfits and stuff. But this one's not afraid to be, of the moment. I feel like a lot of movies after this and at certain points in the 90s, they became kind of same looking. Like everything kind of looked a little bit more, I think they weren't embracing the time period as much, but I understand because things could look dated. But we're all about dated here. We love that movies try to emulate the time period they're making it. They're trying to capture the time period they're making it. They made it. So I remember going to see this movie. We went on the bus to the Sheep's Bay Theater, and I had an asthma attack.
Oh no!
After this movie was over, like I remember that I had to go, and then I had to go to the hospital.
Oh no!
Just like a emergency room visit, and luckily, I was under control by the end of the night. But that's what I remember about that. But that night, after seeing all these movies, it's like getting an asthma attack out of nowhere.
I mean, is it like that's a pretty heavy slate of films that you saw?
I don't think it was.
Time?
Yeah, I don't know if it was the experience of seeing 3 movies, but because I did it all the time, and I would do it after this again, still. Like, but just my asthma as a kid was kind of random, so just like came out of nowhere. All right, so that was Ellie's story. Also on February 8th, The Never-Ending Story Part 2, The Revenge, or The Next Chapter came out. Didn't see that in theaters. I watched that maybe like a couple of months ago for like a family movie night, and it didn't go over well.
Oh, really?
To be honest.
Is it not good? I haven't seen it.
It's not. It doesn't quite match up. I bought the Blu-ray kind of cheaply, and just did not capture the attention of my kids as much. They love the original, though. The original holds up really, really well.
Yeah.
But the second one just kind of doesn't work. Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are dead. We talked about Shakespeare earlier. Here they are on February 8th. And then this movie came out. Here's a TV spot.
Where are you from?
A lot of questions.
She's changed her name, her looks, her life. All to escape the most dangerous man she ever met. Her husband.
Where is she? This is our last chance. I can't live without you, and I won't let you live without me.
Julia Roberts, Sleeping with the Enemy. Rated R. Starts Friday, February 8th at theaters everywhere.
Okay, that's Sleeping with the Enemy. Should just mention, I saw this again, of course, at the United Arts Sheep's Bay Theater with LA Story, Nothing But Trouble. But I also saw it at the Marlborough Theater. I think I saw it at Sheep's Bay the second time, the first time at the Marlborough Theater, which is up the block from where I lived. So I saw it twice in the theater. Let's see what I gave. I don't remember what I rated this movie. I think I liked it. So I need to look. Need to consult my papers. 3.5 stars.
What was the audience reaction like?
Oh, this one went over really well. It was really crowded in both theaters, I remember, and everyone loved it.
Oh, it
was
so,
a real
satisfying.
Oh yeah, people were like cheering for her. They were like booing him. They were like, they were like, really into because he was such a good villain, Patrick Bergen.
Oh, he's terrified actually.
Yeah. So everyone knows the story about this woman who's, basically physically and mentally abused by her husband and finds a way to escape by faking her death and then moves to a small town. And of course, her husband tracks her down. And it's about, she finds a relationship with the guy next door, literal guy next door. And then, some dark things happen. But it's a really fun, nail-biting kind of suspense movie because of the Patrick Bergen character and how controlling he is, and how he's so upset if towels are not lining up, and cans of peas in the cupboard are not straight. He wants to control her life, and kind of definitely parallels to this movie to The Invisible Man. With Elizabeth Moss. You can see some of that there. It does feel like a Sleeping with the Enemy movie. There's definitely some of that there. and of course, the house. This amazing house, which is a character in itself in this movie. On the water.
I also like her house with her porch that she moves to.
Yeah, it's so like
her kitchen.
Yeah. It's so it feels like a real house. It feels like a real I don't know if it was a set or not, but it felt real to me.
Yeah,
it felt like she moved to the Midwest.
I was surprised because I looked it up recently that it was filmed in South Carolina, like kind of near where I lived as a kid, and I had no idea. But now that I watch it, like I can see that it's like a very South Carolina looking movie, like that town she's in and stuff.
Oh, I could totally see that. Yeah,
Yeah,
it does feel like that. The Beach House apparently was filmed in North Carolina, but the other things were filmed in South Carolina. Yeah, it does feel like that, for sure.
Oh, and the hair in the film is very...
Another character in the movie is their hair.
and like the boyfriend interest hair.
Yes.
Like a mullet, kind of, but not. I don't know.
Kevin Anderson. Oh my god. I'm looking up his picture on eBay, and his hair... the picture on IMDb. So did I say eBay? I'm sorry, I meant IMDb. His hair is telling a story in his IMDb photo.
There's a lot of stories there.
I urge you guys to look up IMDb Kevin Anderson. Oh, Sleeping with the Enemy, and look at his IMDb photo. Like, whoa,
wow,
that's a lot of look. It's so big.
This was like the last gasp of the big hair. We're like, it's like almost the end of that era. Kind of sad. Certainly
for her, because this was like she did this movie, then Dying Young, and then Hook at the end of the year, and her hair was like short by that point. Her famous short hair. She pulls a Mia Farrow in '91 and cuts off her hair. Right? Yeah, I was a fan for sure, and this, it's very entertaining. And I was watching it the other night, and I fell asleep actually watching it, and that's fucking Berlioz music, man. Like,
it's scary.
It's scary. I could never just like listen to that like by itself. That would be just too frightening.
And that's like what he wanted to have sex, like listening to that. Like, that's like a bad sign.
Yes, that's not good. Not good at all. Yeah, he was quite a character, and Patrick Bergin really just like goes all in with that performance.
Yeah. I was so mad at that lady, the YWCA lady, do you remember the scene where he's like talking to her and she's like, that's odd, like she had these bruises, but I thought it was because she did gymnastics. Like she basically like gives like away like that she was taking swimming lessons, and you're like, no.
For sure.
It's just such a good audience, like, pleaser movie. I wish I saw it with an audience. You're very
It totally is. It totally is. And credit goes to Joseph Rubin for crafting the movie. Like, makes good audience movies. He made Dreamscape, The Stepfather, True Believer. After this, he did The Good Son, Money Train.
I like that one.
Those are some fun movies.
Stepfather is also kind of a creepy guy. Villain too.
Oh yeah, certainly. All right. So after this, on February 14th, they released this movie just for Valentine's Day. This was a Thursday. They're like, well, you know what? We need to release this on Valentine's Day. Here is the TV spot.
An FBI trainee. A brilliant psychotic.
I'm here to learn from you.
Mind against mind.
What does he do, this man you see?
Clue for clue.
I'll help you catch him, Clary.
You know who he is, don't you?
She's playing a game she can't lose.
Tell me his name, Doctor.
To find a killer, she must stop. The Silence of the Lambs, rated R. Starts Thursday, February 14th at theaters.
Okay, Silence of the Lambs. We knew we were going to get to this movie. It's so interesting that this movie was released in February and ended up winning the Oscar, because like that never happens, because they're almost always released at the end of the year, so they're really like fresh in Oscar voters' minds. But this one was released like the beginning of the year practically, and it made such an impression that it obviously made so much money, and it just became such a touchstone in the cultural zeitgeist in 1991. But I really want to hear your thoughts on Silence of the Lambs. That's the reason why we're talking about
it. I love this movie. I rewatched it with Colin actually the other night, and it's just one of those movies that you've seen a lot, but it's always something new that you pick up on in the movie, or you're still tense watching it, even though you know what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I just like that it works. Like the movie works on so many levels as like a horror movie, as like an FBI procedural, as an emotional drama.
Yeah.
It's very entertaining, but it also has like heft to it as well. And watching it now, maybe I didn't get this as much when I was younger, but watching it now, like just like seeing it from a female perspective, like, you know, Jodie Foster's character's perspective is really interesting. And how she finds things that other agents miss, like the Polaroids in the music box, and how she's kind of this like intellectual, emotional match with Hannibal Lecter.
Yeah.
And she's so good in the movie. Like, I guess, like, it's become such a like touchstone, like you've said, but when you're just watching it, like it's just so raw and well controlled, like just every scene. And I really like Jonathan Demme a lot. Even like his movies that are a little flawed, like Beloved, and I loved Rachel Getting Married. Like I think he was such a great director. Really showed like different layers of like American life. And Silence of the Lambs is like, it's like a fun movie, but it's also very disturbing. Like,
yeah,
I don't know. There's just so much to say about it. It's hard to say just like a few things.
I mean, it is what it became for a reason. I mean, it really struck a chord with everyone. I know they try to play it down as a thriller, but it's really a horror movie, guys. It's like it's through and through a horror film. It's I'm a big fan of Manhunter, which of course was the adaptation of Red Dragon, and The Silence of the Lambs came before it. But it really, those movies are both so done so well by the directors. I think it's the reason why they're so successful is because the point of view of the filmmaker, and not so much the writing. I mean, the writing is important to the film, but I think the director really expresses how these characters like interact with the way he uses Tak Fujimoto's camera work, the way they're dressing each other face on, like head on to the camera. It's just so unique. And it really stays with you because of the way he does it, the way it's done. It's the music, and it's just so well put together. And this movie was bound to be like such the movie of 1991.
Yeah, I didn't realize it was filmed in like a lot of it was filmed in Pittsburgh, and it kind of has this like Pittsburghy feel to it.
That's true. Yeah, I like that about it, and it's just. Yeah, it's a reason why. There's a reason why it's held up over these years, and because multiple viewings, I've watched it a few times over the years, and every time I've watched it, I'm ready to like not dismiss it, but like to feel like it's lessened in quality or lessened in impact, and it doesn't. It doesn't. It really doesn't. It holds up every single time, and if not, if you find more things to like about it. And it's almost annoying that does because it's
like
that movie.
Actually, a good movie.
Yeah, like why? Like why? Okay, I can share this one with like everyone else in America.
Yeah, it's really weird that it won Best Picture to me, though. I feel like it's not a typical Best Picture winner, but
it's not. No, it's not. It really that it swept all the awards. It's another rarity, but. The 5 major awards of Best Actor, Actress, Director, Picture, Screenplay. It really struck a chord, and I can definitely see why. And then, of course, I think that might have set off a chain of movies that try to copy that a little bit. I feel like there were a lot of like serial killer kind of movies, but I don't think they ever quite matched, this one in terms of quality entertainment.
Colin and I are starting The Cell, which I've never seen, but he's seen, and he's like, it's kind of like Silence of the Lambs, like in terms of plot. So, but yeah, there was definitely a lot of like imitations and TV series and stuff.
Oh my god,
that
they're
it
still
followed.
like trying to capture the magic. They have that Clarice TV show now, and
Yeah, I'm not there. I'm not there.
yeah, I just don't know without the principles of this movie involved, and I feel like it's never quite worked. I know there are people who are fans of Hannibal and other iterations of this, you know, the characters in the books, but it just doesn't it never really leaves the impact like it does. I don't know, in this film and even Manhunter. I think those two films really, for some reason, get under my skin in a way that I really like. So,
yeah, like I like the weirder stuff in the movie, like where she's like, I like the Clarice stuff, you know, where she's going to the victim's house and looking through her things.
Yeah.
Like the little details are really good.
It could have been a boring procedural, but I think it's definitely enhanced because of her performance. Yeah.
Yeah. Good soundtrack too. There's like Jonathan Demme like knows how to pick out good songs.
Oh my god, one of the best songs ever like is in this movie. I think my wife plays that song, the one with the horses, all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love it.
And I like the use of the Tom Petty song when Brooke, is it Brooke? Oh god, what's her last name? She's really good. Brooke somebody. She's listening to Tom Petty, she's in the car, and like it's like the perfect song for like a senator's daughter to be listening to.
That's right. Yeah, Brooke Smith. Sorry, Brooke Smith. That is a pretty generic last name to.
I know. I was like wanting to say Brooke Adams. It's like not Brooke Adams. But Brooke Smith is really great in it too. I really like her.
Yeah. And I like Clarice's friend, Casey Lemons.
Yes.
Of course, went on to be a great director with Eve's Bayou.
Mm-hmm.
Great stuff. Yeah. I mean, Silence of the Lambs, you could see why, you know, it's held up. And I went to see in the theater. We saw it with scenes from a mall, which we'll be talking about soon.
What was it like in the theater? I'm very curious.
It was a completely packed audience.
Yeah.
Like, there wasn't a seat left in the house. I remember being very full. And we always would go early enough to get good seats. We were very good about that. And and everyone just like interacted the way you might think. They were horrified at the right moments and laughed at the moments where the movie wanted to make you laugh. And it was such a well done machine. Like, it really was made for the audience. And but then you can watch it at home and also be creeped out. So that's not a really good movie.
That's what I did, unfortunately. It was really scary. Scary as a kid, like, you know, trying to watch it by yourself because you want to see it.
Yeah.
Not a good idea.
All right. On February 15th, Alligator Eyes, which was an independent movie, probably just released New York, maybe LA, came out. It's a really odd one, like an indie thriller. Iron and Silk came out. King Ralph came out at the Marlboro Theater. Did you see that one?
I saw it when I was 11, but
Yeah.
I don't remember it. I think I liked King Ralph as a child.
Looking at my paperwork, I'll tell you what I liked, what I thought about it.
What was your review?
1 star.
Oh no.
I gave it an F. It's at the Marlboro Theater, block from where I live, so it was a very quick trip up the block, but I just did not like it. Not a fan of King Ralph.
And you haven't gone back to King Ralph since?
I think I tried once rewatching some of it, and I just couldn't get into it. Yeah, I also felt like Peter O'Toole looked really bored in it. Like, why am I in this movie?
There's some junk food films definitely this year.
Yeah, there's definitely that. Let's get into the next junk food movie, Nothing But Trouble, which I saw at the Sheepshead Bay with Alex Story and Sleeping with the Enemy. Did you see that in theaters or on home video? Or
I actually watched this recently, and I had high hopes. I thought it was going in a good direction.
Uh-huh.
I have to say this one is not very good. I love Demi Moore, and like her hair, and like I thought it had a good setup, and then I was like, we're definitely not in New Jersey anymore. I don't know where we are.
Looking at the paperwork here, Sounds of the Lambs, Nothing But Trouble, LA Story, Nothing But Trouble, 1 star F. Wow. I was very liberal with the 1 stars in 1981. I was not a fan. I remember hating it when I saw it in the theater, but I don't remember anything else other than hating it. I just remember a lot of like makeup effects. Like people were wearing a lot of like makeup to look like
John Candy is in drag.
To look like other characters. Yeah, John Candy I felt like was in drag a lot in certain movies, but the makeup was like really I don't know. Dan Aykroyd had a lot of makeup. Very latexy. Yeah, I'm not a fan of big latexy prosthetics for comic effects.
And I heard Chevy Chase was like a real pain to work with on the movie.
Oh yeah, I've heard that a lot in different movies. Oh well. Perfectly Normal. That was also released February 15th, whatever that is. And then on February 22nd, the last week of the month, because again, it's February, short month. There was a handful of movies released. Here is the TV spot for one of them that I saw in the theater.
He sees her as demanding and emotionally deranged.
She sees him as arrogant.
Sex with me is very good.
I'm sure. And cowardly.
Don't you ever think about getting married?
Yeah, I think about it. I just don't know what I think about it.
But that's what makes love
interesting.
I feel warmly towards you.
He said.
She said. Rated PG-13.
Starts Friday, February 22nd at theaters everywhere.
Okay, that's He Said, She Said. The Paramount comedy, romantic comedy. They released a romantic comedy, I guess, because it was a week after Valentine's Day, so they released a romantic comedy then, which is odd because they usually release it right before or right on Valentine's Day. But I think because Silence of the Lambs was the movie that everyone was watching the week before, they didn't bother releasing it that week. Paramount's like, nope. Gotta stay out of Silence of the Lambs' way. They were probably right. So maybe it was, kind of a little bit under the radar. Kevin Bacon and Elizabeth Perkins played kind of like dueling TV show reporter or TV. They're reporters, and then they become like on a TV. They become TV show reporters. I don't know how that works, but they like kind of fall for each other because they're kind of a little bit opposites, and then it traces the gimmick for this movie is that the movie shows you his side and her side, so it's like a split perspective kind of movie. It starts off like one side, and then it will show you the events from the other person's point of view. The same thing, but from a different point of view, different character's point of view. So I like that gimmick, I guess, because that could be like tread on being repetitive, but I don't remember that being that case in this movie. I think they showed you enough of a different perspective from the female and the male perspective that it was kind of interesting and engaging. And of course, Kevin Bacon and Elizabeth Perkins were really good at that, showing you the characters and giving them being charismatic. So you kind of wanted to see this relationship work, but also kind of fall apart at the same time. A good supporting cast like Nathan Lane, Anthony LaPaglia, Sharon Stone. Some fun people show up in the movie, and Ken Kwapis directed it with Marissa Silver. They were a husband and wife team. Now Marissa Silver had made some movies that I really like. She made Old Enough, and which was like a teen coming of age movie set in New York in the 80s. I really like that one. And Permanent Record, which was a teen angst drama made in 1988, set in the Pacific Northwest with Keanu Reeves, about suicide. I really think that's a really good film.
Oh wait, I love Old Enough. I didn't realize that I forgot the name of that movie. That's a really good one.
It's a really
such a good New York movie too.
Yeah, good New York movie from kids, like a kid's perspective, right?
Yeah,
so it's something I kind of related to because of being a kid in New York of the 80s. Mm-hmm. So that one gives you the teenage girl's perspective, which is cool. And so yeah, strong director. So here she's teaming with her husband to make this kind of 2 point of view movie, and that was cool. I liked that I like that change of pace, I guess, of her. That was an interesting way to go about it. And I think the movie's charming, and I like Kevin Bacon a lot. I had a crush on Elizabeth Perkins pretty early. I feel like probably around Big, somewhere around there. So,
which she's wonderful in.
Yeah. So I would see whatever she was in.
Yeah.
And probably the reason why I watched this, and then I knew Sharon Stone already. She was in Total Recall, and of course the Cannon movies I watched a lot, King Solomon's Mines and Alan Quartermain. She was the girl in that, and I remember her well from those. So I was always entertained by this one. Did you see He Said, She Said?
I watched it again recently. I definitely feel like this was a movie that was on television a lot, like in the 90s. And I was getting like flashbacks. Like, I've definitely seen this before. I agree. It's very charming. It's very cozy. It's very watchable.
Yeah, it's watchable. Like, you don't have to invest too much into it.
No.
Yeah.
And it's like you're right, like the two leads are well matched because Elizabeth Perkins is such like a steely, strong actress, and he's kind of goofy and like kind of harmless. So like the two of them work really well together, I think.
That's right. And 2 Kevin Bacon movies in 1 month.
That's true.
And this is Kevin Bacon reunion with Paramount after Friday the 13th. No slashing in this one, sadly.
No. Just coffee cups throwing, right? Is that what she throws on?
Yes, that was the big setup in this movie. I saw this at the Lowe's Oriental Theater, which always heightened whatever I would see in the movie, because this was like an old movie palace. The Lowe's had these original, like, I can't remember how many they had them in New York, but they had originally had like either 6 or 7 or whatever movie palaces, and this was one of the original ones left. And
was that in Times Square?
No, this was in Brooklyn.
Oh, in Brooklyn. What part of Brooklyn?
This was in Bensonhurst, Brooklyn. Okay. And so they made it to a triplex at this point, and this one played on the main screen, I believe. And so it was like a big screen kind of movie for this like cozy story about relationships. And I don't think it lasted very long on the big screen, but but I saw it on the big screens, so it made the movie better for me.
Yeah.
And yeah, I watched it recently, and I think it holds up well. So
it does, actually. Yeah.
It's not a great movie, but it's good for what it is. And I think Sharon Stone's really entertaining when she pops up in it. I remember liking her role in it.
Yeah. She's always entertaining.
Yeah, and she has another good 91 movie we'll get into later this year. All right, let's talk about what's left. There's not many left. Princes in Exile was a movie I'd never seen before. Until recently, I got the VHS of it. And there might be like a YouTube of it, but it's a weird kind of movie. It's like a camp movie. But for kids with kind of disabilities, they kind of range too, like what's going on, what their problems are, and what's happening with their lives. One has I think the main boy in this movie has a brain tumor, and so it's a lot of kids who have cancer or different things going on in their lives, like that are affecting them. So they're at camp together. And it's kind of like about their time together, and like he's a virgin and he's kind of trying to lose his virginity, and then traces kind of their relationships. And I think some kids like have some real angsty issues, of course. And so it's kind of a really sad kind of camp movie.
Oh, it sounds very sad.
I don't know why I ended up buying a VHS copy of this movie, but I own it now.
Well, you're being a completist for this year. It's very important.
Yeah. This sad camp movie. Oh well. But yeah, I kind of liked it for what it was trying to do, but I don't know if it's the kind of movie I'm going to watch a lot, to be honest. But yeah, the fact that it exists is interesting enough, And I think, there's a musical sequence in it, and yeah. Some love will blossom, or maybe we'll see. And then the other movie that I saw in theaters, the last movie of this, I guess the last two besides that one are Sleazy Uncle. I don't know what that one is, but that was released in February of 22nd, and Superstar: The Life and Times of Andy Warhol, which I've never seen. I've always wanted to see that. But it's really hard to track down a copy of that.
I haven't seen that. I should see that, though.
Yeah, I remember there was a copy of it on VHS at Kim's, but I never rented it. It was the Chuck Workman, good documentarian. He made all those things for the Oscars, and so it had a lot. It has a lot of people talking about Andy Warhol, like Dennis Hopper and Fran Lebowitz and David Hockney. There's a lot of people in it on the documentary, but so it's maybe really rare because of that. It just shows you all these people's perspective of Andy Warhol. So I wish I could see that again. So if you guys can track down a copy of Superstar: The Life and Times of Andy Warhol, let me know. It's not streaming that I know of, and we really would like to watch it. And the last movie of the day, here is the TV spot.
From Touchstone Pictures, you've seen her ruthless, outrageous, and all business. But you've never seen her like this.
You look like my Aunt Nina in that dress.
Married to Woody Allen.
We've done our duty, to civilization. We procreated, and now we can die.
Bette Midler.
Not in 15 years have we ever made love unless the television was on.
Woody Allen.
I'm a guy who can do more than one thing at a time.
No, you're not.
Scenes from a Mall, rated R. Starts Friday at a theater near you.
Okay, that's Scenes from a Mall. But out with a classic. So that's at the United Arab Sheepshead Bay Theater with Silence of the Lambs. Wow. So it was interesting seeing such a different.
Wow.
I guess it was good to do that in a way.
Oh, it's great.
All right, I don't know what I thought of it then. Let's see. I can't remember now. Scenes from a Mall. 2.5 stars. C+. It's a Touchstone movie. So I like that. I always like a Touchstone movie. They're always kind of cozy, calm, and just cozy for me. I remember, it was okay, right? An okay movie about Woody Allen and Bette Midler as a couple, in California, who are going to the mall to buy Christmas presents for their kids, and then of course it's kind of shows you their relationship dissolving right before your eyes in the mall as they admit to affairs and all the wackiness that ensues because of that. It's a Paul Mazursky film. And I love Paul Mazursky. Of course, he made some of my favorite movies of all time, like Unmarried Woman and a few others. But I don't know, this is not quite a classic Paul Mazursky movie. But at the same time, I don't know. I guess I'm not against this movie. I think it's kind of watchable for what it is. I kind of enjoy the bickering in a strange way between Bette Midler and Woody Allen. But if you're not in the mood to watch a movie like 90 minutes of, I think it's 90. Yeah, it's like almost exactly 90 minutes of a couple bickering. I don't know. It might not be for you.
Yeah. I mean, I was just entranced with the mall itself.
Yeah.
I was just staring at the background and the marquee of the theater. And I felt very like I wasn't really engaged with whatever they were fighting about. I was just like looking at Walden books or whatever was behind them, the sharper image.
Yeah. It's a good movie.
Stores.
It's definitely a good movie to to look at the mall. It's interesting that it was shot in L.A. I mean, set in L.A., but then filmed in Connecticut,
right?
A mall in Connecticut. Yeah. And I'm almost positive it's because Woody Allen didn't want to go to L.A.
Oh, that makes sense.
So they found a location closer to him in Connecticut.
Oh my god, and his ponytail in this film is really bad.
That's a lot. And I think it's a kind of a funny visual joke, because I think he's even having fun, because it's something like you would never see Woody Allen with a ponytail otherwise. I'm not sure why some of the choices in this movie or why the choices are made, but it's kind of fun seeing that they're all these years later now that they made him. There's mime in this movie.
Yeah, Bill Irwin as the mime.
Yeah, that's right.
And Fabio was in this film as well.
Fabio's in it. It's just random. That's kind of random. Why is he in this movie? Yeah, it's
they go to a movie. I forgot what they see.
They go see
Shalom.
Yeah, Salam Bombay.
Salam Bombay. Yeah.
Which I think is kind of funny that it's like been playing in theaters for like 3 years or something, how long it was by that point. It's kind of a joke. I think it's like his Paul Mazursky's in joke, like that movie would be popular enough to be playing all those years later at the mall. There is a visual joke because it's like that the marquee is like a bunch of sequels, and then like Salam Bombay.
That's true. Yeah, it's like Predator 2, Godfather 3.
It's kind of funny. So there's definitely funny things in this movie, but yeah, you do have to endure like Woody Allen and Bette Midler bickering.
Yeah, she throws like a box of sushi in one scene, like in the food court.
That's right.
I guess there was a lot of there wasn't much love for like yuppies in the 1991.
No. There's definitely a send up of like yuppies of that time, but I think it would have better script. It would have been a little bit more, I don't know, insightful or engaging. But yeah, it really is kind of like maybe Paul Mazursky just playing loose a little bit with that, with his idea of like scenes, his play on scenes from marriage, obviously in a mall. But it could have been better, but. Definitely not. There are worse ways to spend 90 minutes, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, it is a great time capsule for sure.
Yeah, definitely very of that time. Which is why we like some of those movies. So our next podcast we'll do March and April. We'll do spring. And we'll talk about some of the fun things. Looking at the list here, there's definitely some fun things in there, guys. So join us for that. Come back to let the mall scenes from a mall scare you away. There are definitely some fun things in there. I do like doing these kinds of podcasts because they do take me back. They do transport me.
Yeah, and it's so easy to like go back to just the movies that are we remember, but some of these like hidden ones, it's always fun to discover or rediscover.
Yeah, certainly. All right, let's close with some 90s, 91. So we've been playing, we've been at the top of the podcast and at the break, we've been playing songs that were popular, that were new songs of 1991. So as this was, these were new movies coming out in 91, we're playing new songs. So here we go, another one. Thank you so much, Jeffrey, for joining me on this 91 adventure.
Thank you so much for having me. It was really fun.
I love it. Check out his blog, JDB Records. You can find him on Facebook. Where can they hunt you down, guys?
My Twitter is JDB Records, and my blog is JDB Records. And I have a Facebook page for the blog too, but you can find me on Facebook as well.
Yeah, find Jeffrey Berg there, and you can find, of course, Cinema to Meep all over the internet, Retro Movie Love podcast all over the internet, and I would recommend you guys to listen to my other podcast, The Last American Video Store. I had an episode recently with Brian Sauer of Rupert Pupkin Speaks and the Pure Cinema podcast and Just This podcast, and we were talking about his love for Blu-rays and his video store past. So if you're into video stores and Blu-rays and physical media, check out that podcast. That was a fun episode to do.
It was a great episode. I loved it.
Oh, thank you. It's always fun to talk about movies, whether they're in theaters, in this case, or at home with that podcast. I love doing that stuff, and I love talking about movies with you. So thank you for joining me.
Likewise.
Talk soon. Ciao for now.
Again?
Sandy.
I'm sorry, Sandy. It's a nice name. Everybody has such weird names now. It's like Tiffany with a PHI, and instead of Nancy, it's Nancine.
Big S, small A, small N, big D, small E, big E.
What?
Big S, small A, small N, big D, small E, big E. Big S, small A, small N, big D, small E, big E. Then there's a little star at the end.